evening, everyone. Welcome to another FaceHAMMER Live. I've got loads of background noise coming for you, Byron. I don't know what you're doing.
Coming from me.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of stopped now, I think.
One
Hi,
second.
everyone.
Sorry.
Sorry.
With a snowball. Okay.
So hope everyone's doing well. Sorry, it's been a while. Had a lot of stuff going on. So as you can see, I was still not in the studio, and Nagash is moved. So he's overseeing IKEA production in the new room. So he's helping out as best he can, even though I'm not in there at the moment. So he's disappointed with me not working. Yeah, we thought we'd do a show because the long-awaited dragons are coming, and they're landing, well, taking off, I suppose, or landing the following weekend. So they're up for pre-order on Saturday. So thought we'd do a little show, talk about dragons, do some dragon lists. This has been a update as well that's kind of snuck onto the Warhammer community that you might have missed, to do with balance changes. So I wanted to talk a bit about that. And then
it's doing points basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just points adjustment. And then we'll talk about some lists, the warscrolls, talk about the big guys, little guys, some combos, and then we're going to talk a little bit.
Some counter strats as well.
Yeah, so then we're going to talk about like how to deal with these raging mortal wound machines that can fly across the table.
Which is a concern, right? Because they're going to shake things up. They're a big deal.
Yeah, they are. But before we get into all of that, I just want to sort of talk about what I've been up to. So we've done a couple of events. I mean, I've just come off the Six Nations as well. So we're going to have. Well, I did all right. I got thrown into Gargants all weekend. So.
Oh, stop it! Did you play as part of a team?
Oh, I don't mind. It was fine. It's just that it's like, it's just it's a bit of a crapshoot, you know, because you fight Gargants and it's like, do I roll under average, on average, or below average? And
do I leave one alive on one wound and then lose the game, which
happened to me twice. But but I had a good time. It was really good fun. We also went to Warhammer World. We've done a show on, but haven't put that out yet, so I'll probably have that out on the weekend. But I'm just drinking my Swedish beer that was given to me by Jonas Farrow, who I played from the Swedish team. So I thought I'd try it out live on stream. So
always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's very nice. It is 9.5% though.
All right, steady boy.
Yeah,
looks very wheaty.
It's an IPA.
We've also got FaceHAMMER objective markers back in stock, haven't we?
Yes, we have. So we've got a restock, and the reason they've been out of stock for a while is we wanted to do a slight redesign. So we've made some changes to the printing, haven't we? So it's slightly more scratch resistant.
The packaging's more scratch resistant. The seal on the case should work better. We've also lowered the price and reduced the amount of stuff that's in there. So they are now $19.95, and they are in stock as of tomorrow. They will be, they're orderable now. Ignore the fact that it says they're not in stock. They only arrived at the end of today, but from tomorrow they will be going out to people who ordered them. So thank you for the people who've waited. I know a few of you have sent us messages and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you'll be able to order those now. The link's in the description, but I'll paste it as well, so you can go there if you want to pre-order them now, and they'll be winging their way to you soon.
I can sort that out.
Oh. So links in the chat now. It's also in this description if you're watching this later. Usual place. Cool. So I guess probably we should talk about the adjustment, right?
Yeah.
Before we get into anything.
You're no longer allowed 13 dragons.
No.
There was too many.
Yeah, they were
definitely too many.
There was too many. Yeah. Yes, we're live, Gabe. Hi.
Hi, Gabe.
So dragons are on their way, but not before a quick balance pass. So honestly, being delayed, the models being delayed is probably a good thing, because there was some stuff in there that was pretty negative to be on the other side of it. If anyone's faced against cheers, Gabe. If anyone's faced the onslaught of the Iron Jaws Alpha and felt overwhelmed, the dragon was like that up to 11. It was the Spinal Tap version of the Iron Jaws Alpha.
Yeah.
So
Literally just like board wipe to the majority of people level. I think they're still damn good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're not incredible now, but they were probably on the oppressive side of good, I would say, for the amount that you could have fitted in.
yeah, it was just there's a little bit of because of the ability to move in the hero phase and to shoot out a sequence of some of the things you could do around like translocation and Signs of the Storm. It was just very, very strong.
Super comparable to Iron Jaws, isn't it? It's like
Yes.
you have a teleport spell, you have a teleport sprayer. You can get around a load of the key parts of the game by doing stuff in the hero phase in Iron Jaws. You can do that with this list, and then they just do all of that plus, instead of impact hits, they belch out pretty reliable, high quality ranged mortal wounds, just to just keep things pretty scary.
Yeah, so we talked about what we could do to kind of alleviate a bit, and basically the where we're at is we've landed at a points adjustment. So this, I mean, just to say well done to GW for actually releasing this before they release the models. I think that's a really good thing to say. We're gonna, because obviously we know there's a winter update coming, but it's like it's nice to do this before people purchase them so they can make an informed choice.
Yeah, it's more mature, isn't it? They're not cheap either. People buying 2 extras actually, quite a lot of people's money. Models aren't cheap these days. They're elite. They're decent size. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think if you went and bought like the extra box set, you'll never probably get to use them if you play 2K point Warhammer, so it's it's a good thing. So basically the list at 2,000 points, because of the adjustment, is quite a significant increase. You basically lose 2 dragons, because before you could have 12 dragons and a character, and now you can have 10 dragons and a character.
Mm-hmm.
So
and the Triumph changed as well, didn't it?
Yeah, so we didn't have quite as high adjustment, and 10 dragons and a ride I think were at 1950, but we thought that the easy access Triumph was probably a little bit too good.
Well, the list writes itself, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
You take the guy and then you fill up the rest with the dudes, and then you still end up with this.
It's still exactly the same list.
Still going to take.
Just are you going to have a Triumph or not? Basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this article, basically you can go on the Warhammer community site and it tells you about, there's a statement there about why they've been changed and there's new points. So War Scroll Builder's not been updated yet, but you could just use the maths. It's not that hard to add up your 6 units. So but
multiples of 5 here.
Yeah, it's why I haven't done a dragon show earlier, because obviously I knew that there was something going on, so I didn't want to do a show that was then going to be invalid. That's why I kind of waited, and it kind of makes more sense now. You can actually get hold of the models, so soon, but
pretty simple list deck as well, isn't it? It's not like a paladin army where there's 17 different ways you could build it. It's just do you take a very big dragon? Do you take any other little utility characters? And then you fill up the rest of your point with the dudes as well. So if we had released a show, it would have been like, right, this is the the typical 13 dragon list or whatever.
Yeah, I mean there is some, when you've got a little bit more play, there's a little bit of an argument of taking double character or taking some ancillary characters that fit into Battle Regiment, which then give you some extra combos.
List.
So it's still, that's discussion's still there, which is what we'll get into today. But I just thought it'd probably a good idea to remind people what they do.
Everything.
Yeah. Basically.
Unless what they don't do, they don't cast spells. Done.
They are resistant to spells, though, so it's okay. That's fine. You need to unbind, just ignore it. So I thought what we'd do is just talk about the Stormdrake Guard first, because they're the main battle line unit, but they're only battle line, I think, if you've got a Draconith general, so that's either Krondys or Karazai or the Knight-Draconis. So essentially they've got a 12-inch move. They obviously fly, 3 up armor save, 9 wounds. Good bravery as well. You really worry about that. a very effective shooting attack, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they've basically got choice of either a lance or a sword. I think the sword is probably the go-to choice because you're basically freeze, rem 1, damage 1, but 6 attacks. Whereas the lance is 3 attacks, but you get rend 2, damage 2 on the charge. So it's kind of like, do you want the extra rend, but you only get that if you charge. So I think you're probably going to go with Warblades.
I mean, you've got a shooting attack for the elite high quality damage, haven't you? Anyway, I think you just take a more well-rounded approach to them, especially if you're in the dragon list, being them as battle line. You've got quite a lot of shooting if you want to get through something's armor.
Yeah. So it's good. I don't know why you couldn't double reinforce them, Jack, because you could still put 6 in one unit and then 2 units of 2, I believe. So I to be honest, I wouldn't take a 6 purely because their coherency starts getting a little bit funny.
Like 12 inches isn't their shooting attack isn't that far range, and if you've got some people behind other people, then given the length of these guys' bases, you're going to end up with half a unit unable to shoot or something, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean they do get a special coherency rule of 3 inches rather than 1, so not too bad. But
so losing 2 out of 6 though would be, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, Jack. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's a thing, but anyway. So basically, they're sort of what they do. So you've also got the coherency rule because they've got big wings. So the lancers get a bonus on the charge. If they're affected by a spell or end a spell on a 4+, you can ignore the effects of the spell to the end of that turn. So basically, it's just you could just ignore spells on a 4-up, but it's optional. And the Flame Storm is basically when you pick a unit within 12, you roll a dice, 1 to 2, nothing happens, 3 to 4 takes D3, on a 5 to 6 hit D6 mortal wounds. So that gets around all the stuff like pointing, like picking out a character and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, like quite frequently stuff like this in the game, like a Chimera or something like that, it's on a 4+ do D6, which is a big swing and then a big swing. These guys are just so much more reliable, aren't they?
Yeah, and I know that the damage from the mortal wounds is really spiky because like you could roll nothing, you could roll 1s on your D6s, or like you could do like a couple mortal wounds, or you could do like 18. It's like really swingy.
Yeah.
But it is very, very effective shooting. Buddy quote. Obviously gets around armor, so
like having a load of spells, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, and it's basically it's one of the things that makes them very good because you can do that damage before you go in, you can delete screens, you can pick heroes out the back, things like that. So
fit to anything. Like it's they're a very well-rounded unit, so they don't do anything to the extreme apart from how well-rounded they are. I would say like they're pretty survivable. They have a decent amount of wounds. You touch on their bravery, fairly decent combat profile. And then their shooting, it's not crazy, but it's consistent. I imagine that is going to be the strength of this army, is going in, pinning people, and then just grinding super effectively, which again is another reason to put the swords on them.
Yeah, I think they used to be a bit more shock and awe before the adjustments when you could overpower people, but you can't quite so much anymore, so you have to play a little bit of a longer game. Obviously, they've got dragged into the Tempest, so in the combat phase after you've attacked, you can pick an enemy unit and basically you roll a dice. If you roll over their wounds, it kills the model, so it's like an extra model that can be killed. It's quite useful.
Chip.
Yeah, it could be quite effective because I had it even when I was playing against giants. It's like even with like a Blood Knight, if they roll a 6, you lose a Blood Knight. It's quite a big difference.
Yep.
Like, if you've got 4 dice, you rolled 2 6s, you just killed like 6 wounds of Blood Knight with no save, nothing. It's just gone.
It's like as well.
It's pretty. It could be pretty big. And then this is probably the main reason they're really, really good, and that's Draconic Onslaught. So once per battle in your hero phase, it can make a normal move. Then roll a dice if there are enemy units within 12 after the move. On a 2+, it can immediately attempt to charge. So this is the same thing that Iron Jaws have, where you've got stuff like Fasten, the Green Hand, and Mighty Destroyers. You get round redeploy, you get round Unleash Hell, you can move 24 inches before you even need to charge.
Yeah, because you no war scroll like that, do they?
So and you only need to really do that once per game, because once you're in combat, you don't really need it. It's like normally for the Alpha Strike, which is pretty good. So just a quick note, John, you can't, with the dragged in, you can't pick the model. You pick a unit, and then if you kill one, that your opponent then picks the model that's slain. So you can't break coherency unless they want to break their own coherency. So
well, you can't choose to do that. Excuse me, technically you can't choose to break your own coherency.
I think you can when you do casualties. I just don't think you can when you do movement.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, if your opponent wishes to.
I've never seen anyone do it, but there might be a techie way.
Yeah, it'd be an extreme. It'd be to take yourself out of being within 3, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can do it with casualty removal. So very strong war scroll. Obviously, they were 285, probably a bit too cheap, right? So they're now up to 340 points now, right?
I was looking at their points on your screen.
Sorry.
I changed the other scroll.
So 340. So there we go.
Big difference. A lot more realistic. I mean, they're high quality wounds, right? They're super fast. They are 3 up naturally. They've got a fairly unprecedented once a game ability. So seems about right. I'm still interested to see what it feels like to play against this list. Even post adjustment, it's gonna feel difficult, isn't it?
They've got the Thunderstrike keyword, so they've got slightly better mortal wound output when you hurt them, and they've also got their monster keyword. If they're battle line, they're obviously not behemoths, but they still can do monstrous rampages, and they count for all the objectives for stuff like get monsters into deployment zone and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very, very good.
And the ability to roar is pretty, that's colossal, isn't it?
Yeah. Pretty good. I mean, it does say only one model can do it, but to be honest, like, you don't really need to worry too much about that, because you only get to do 3 a turn anyway, right? Because you've got there's only 3 different ones you can do.
Army full. Yeah, with an army full, you're going to be filling your boots as it is.
Yeah, they do have a champion, Gabe. So they have a champion called the Stormdrake Prime. Add 1 to his attacks, but also he's a champion. So yeah, they do have a champ. So can issue to themselves as well. That's a good point. So yeah, I mean, super solid war scroll, and obviously the attack profile. You've got 4 attacks from the mount with a reach of 3, which is really good. Freeze, rend 2 damage 2. So like that's nothing rubbish about that. And then 6 attacks if you take the blade, freeze, rend 1 damage. So it's quite grindy, but the damage really comes from the mortal wound breath and just existing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Stormcast damage comes from unexpected sources quite a lot of the time. Like when one dies and it starts pooping out mortals, like the entire army's got a consistent quantity of high quality damage, the most of which comes from mortal wounds.
Yeah. And so you have to excuse me flicking through the hundreds of war scrolls to find the Knight-Draconis. We'll get that relicted guy off that no one's going to take ever off the screen. And so actually I use him in all my army lists. Cool. Well done for you. So Knight-Draconis is obviously got 11 wounds, 3 up save, 12-inch move. So he's the character. He's got the same breath weapon. His Aeon Fire Blade is nuts. It's 5 attacks, freeze, 2's rend 3, damage 2. That's just so much damage output.
Rend 3 is unnecessary on that guy, I feel.
He's got a flaming sword.
Why has he got rend? Why? Yeah, it's hot. It's not pointy.
It's because it's the fire of Aeons, mate. Just slices through
got loads of vowels.
Like time.
Just because he's got every vowel in the alphabet in his name, it doesn't mean you get 3 rend.
Yes. Yes, it does. This is the rules. It's
rend 3 is incredible.
Yeah. Then he has. Then you've got the.
We'll cover that combat wombat when we talk about lists and other units.
We haven't got to the big boys yet, so we're starting at the back. Go with the little dragons first. So Wrath of the Draconith, easy for me to say. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick a Stormdrake Guard unit wholly within 12 that has not made a shoot attack in that phase. That unit can shoot. So out of sequence shooting is pretty good.
It is smaller board these days as well. That would have been worse in the past. It's now significantly better because your unit could be wholly within 12 of him and still within range of your opponent in the first turn to bash them up in the hero phase before getting to repeat it in the shooting phase.
Yeah, and to be honest, you can even do it on turn 1 if you've set up properly or they've not set up properly. It's really good at killing the screen.
People are going to get so caught out. This is a very, I think, kind of like Sons of Behemoth, this is a very unforgiving army to play against because it does so much of so many things. Unless you've got a consistent amount of mortal wounds that you can do at range, which is their only real weakness I can think of. Wounds that aren't from spells, because they got protection against that. It's going to be pretty hard to play a perfect game against these guys.
Mm-hmm. Anything that can basically absorb the mortals or dish mortals out is going to be a problem for these guys, I think. So,
yeah.
And again, dragged into the Tempest and the mount's the same, but the big difference is he's a hero, so he can take artifacts, traits, mount traits. So there's lots of stuff you can do with this guy. I actually really rate him. I actually think having 2 of him is really good.
I think it's a super solid option. It kind of saves you points as well, doesn't it? Because you can only take one of them once.
Yeah.
The other guys, yeah.
So the only issue is that if you do that, you're effectively not going to be a 1-drop. So it's the main issue. But
because he's got more than 10 wounds.
Yeah, if you've got 2 monstrous heroes, so only one fits in. But if you drop, for example, like you've got like 4 and then 2, 2, 2, then if you basically go like 4, 2, 2, and then have a second hero, I think that fits. And you also then at 1960, so you could get a triumph. So it means you get more. His output is so good with his 5 attacks at rend, 3 damage 2. It's
also board coverage, right? Like you get to be in more places, which is one of the weaknesses of the army. I guess we'll come to that when we talk about countering it. But you don't have many dudes, and they're very, very fast. But they can only be in so many places at once, which is the amount of units you got on the board. So breaking them up and having more individual characters, I think, is quite a sensible option.
Yeah, exactly. And the only okay. So if you have a single Stormdrake Guard, they're not battle line either. So I was just checking if the singles counted towards your battle line. Yeah, we'll get onto that shouty. So hope you've recovered from the Six Nations. So that's he's very good. Like obviously if he could be spammed with dragons, it would be pretty obnoxious. But
do you think the army cares about being low drop? Like, I guess this is as for this type of army being using them as battle line, taking as many of the guard as possible. Do you think aiming for 1-drop is that essential with it? I know it's easy and convenient with a 1 character and then just 10 dudes list, but do you think they particularly mind?
No. There are some exceptions, but because you're so fast, I think you can just deploy out of range of their stuff. But I think you're more effective at just. There's 2 thoughts for this. Now, I'm not sure what the right answer is, because when I was playing at the Six Nations, I was playing the Nagash Blood Knights 1-drop, and I was playing against Gargants, and every time it was like, choose whether you go first or you go second. And I didn't know what the right answer was, because you go first, you're winning ties on priority, which is huge. Actually, it's a big swing in odds, but then there is a chance you get doubled. So it's like, which
And
is
you
better.
don't want to get doubled by them, and you don't want to get doubled by these guys either.
No, but then like if you go second, if you double turn them, it's massive, but it's not as likely. So it's like I don't know what the right answer is.
Also the ability to shoot once in your hero phase, and then again, you know, if someone gets into, let's say you got a 4-block, and that's your thing that's on the front line that they could reach. If someone wants to, you know, commit whatever from their army can reach that, which isn't a lot in a lot of cases, they're super resilient anyway. You can do a stand and shoot, then they come into you. Hopefully, you know, but like maybe one of them dies or whatever. Then what? You shoot 6 times at them in your first turn. That's quite a lot of what's going to survive that particularly easily.
Not much.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things.
I can't think of anything that's not a giant, and they can reach you.
Yeah, and you're fast enough that you could literally deploy on the backboard edge and be like, well, you're not in range.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about B skewer bows is that like, unless they use super sneaky to put one in range, but it's one shot, you're like, you ain't gonna get me because you're static range, and if you move, your range drops. So it's like you're not even that bothered. Something that I wouldn't want to be facing. So Marathi is a problem. I think Marathi bow snakes is a really bad matchup for this army. Purely because of what Marathi does. Because you can't kill her, she pins you. You can't retreat and charge.
Yeah,
you've got to shoot her. You can only do 3 wounds to her. Then you retreat, and then you're like, it's like you're not doing anything else. So and then the bow snakes are just chipping you
as
away.
Well, isn't she?
Yeah,
Marathi YOLO swagging into your 4-block if you've got one. And actually, for the same reason, when writing lists, you know, facing Be'lakor, anything that nopes you, switches off a unit, or you know, restricts its movement, or something like that. 2/2/2/2/2 is quite, you know, I think it's a good proposition for that reason, even if it's less sexy for the buffing.
Yeah,
and it's more board coverage.
Yeah, and I think if I was doing like a mixed list, I would probably consider 2 Knight-Draconises and 1 unit of 4.
Yeah, I love what you can do with the mixed lists. I think it's kind of we'll come to the list, but it's old school vibes with new school models.
And the Knight-Draconis, 2 Knight-Draconis is a straight swap out for Krondys or Karazai, so it's like it gives you some nice options. It basically adds up to 1,000 points of your army. So the rest of the other 1,000 points is customizable. So if you've got you know, like your Dominion models, like even the stuff out the Dominion, if you just basically put in like Vindicators and you know stuff in there, it's still really good. So
yeah, battle line, and then like you could have 6 of these guys, and I think that would give you the dragon feeling. You could have the big guy or not, and there's a billion lists you can make using that as a backbone.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. So that's the Nitroconus. So we should probably talk about the big guys.
Rah. Let's talk about the good one. Oh, well, I guess we have that discussion first, don't we?
Well, I think that a lot of people wrote off the combat one, but I don't actually think he's as bad as you think.
I don't think he's bad. I just think it's not. You're not struggling for it in the entire Stormcast book, are you? Really? Like the book is not low on stuff that's consistently good in combat. I mean, like the Prime is nuts. He's fast. He's super flexible. But you do struggle for getting in wizards without it feeling like attacks, unless you're going a particular build with the Waz's Jiggers.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Krondys is the best, and I would take him. But I can see why people
crap jewelry.
What? Don't get angry at his YOLO swag. He's like swag dragon.
Not down. Thoroughly not drown.
He's so pretty. It's like that. Look at my bracelet. He's like.
He is the right color, and you should be painting the other one in his colors. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, cities. It's a discussion to be had.
Yeah, but not today. I don't think. But yeah,
no,
I think
that's a show in of itself. Yeah, and it's saucy is the right word.
And you need someone who actually cares about cities, so he knows what they're talking about, which isn't me.
You need someone with a braid as wide as Tom Maudsley's as far as lists go, from his great big head.
Exactly, from his. Yeah, I was going to say so. I probably shouldn't say on there. Krondys, 18 wounds for hip save, moves 14, which is a lot. Flies. He's a
Which
wizard.
is more than it feels like it should be.
Yeah, he probably feels like he should be 12, but you know.
Yeah, he does.
He's got a raging, blazing tempest attack, which again is the same. It's just 18-inch range, so it's a D6 mortal wound, D3 mortal wound, so still really good. I really like him because you're a -1 attack for melee weapons that target him.
Really, it's very, very cool, isn't it? And that's the type of thing that you read and you're like, oh, it's pretty good. And if you were to do any maths on it, like that is
huge. It's massive.
Some crazy debuffing there. Yeah, and it's not a spell. It can't be switched off. It's just like, do you exist? And
if you take the command trait, which has been FAQ'd on the Knight-Draconis, you're -1 to wound as well because he is a monster.
But is it first round that one?
I think it's the whole game. Unless I got that wrong, you can check for me.
I'm on it.
So it has been FAQ'd, but I think it's just changed to be monsters only, which we wouldn't. Behemoths only, I think. Anyway, don't know, something like that. I'll go check it in a minute. Blazing Tempest, Ancient Master of War, Calamitous Tail. So the attacks of the tail is equal to the number of models within 3. So the tail, damage 2, rend 2, freeze, 3-inch reach, could be, if you go into a big unit of infantry, you could really shred them. You could end up with like 10 attacks or something like that. So it's really good at just churning through infantry models, or big tar pity units, which is why I quite like him as an alternate to a unit of dragons, because essentially he's cheaper than 4 dragons. So he's got less wounds, but he's a double cast wizard. His output's really good. So I really like him. So
I just checked for you, Russ. You are correct. If this general is a monster and is on the battlefield, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target friendly Stormcast Eternal monsters. That's it. No restrictions.
Yeah, it's been FAQ'd though. Is it something that you can't take it on a Knight-Draconis? I don't know. That's what Jack's saying. I don't know what it's changed to, so I have to check it.
They can't only at the moment, apparently. Someone could pop that in that FAQ. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'll just do it now because we're talking about it. Oh, why is it always default to 40k now? So annoying. Age of Sigmar, come on, load. It's a bit slow.
Over how fast these dragons are, and I've already said it, but they just for something with that save, that runes characteristic, a move of 14 just feels. Even the normal dragons, they feel more 10 to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the real strengths of the army, and that would make a big difference to their effective shooting range as well. Behemoth only right now from Jack Geiger.
Yeah. If the general has the Behemoth battlefield roll, oh, okay. Is that because the normal guy doesn't have the Behemoth roll, even though he's a monster? That
yeah.
seems to be silly.
One way to fix it.
I just put my personal taste on units that have got the monster keyword and aren't Behemoths. I really hate it. Because I really don't see the point of why you can't take like Alpha Beast Pack with monsters, even though they're battle line. It just seems completely alien to me. As when we did our show with
confusing.
John Kirioff, and I was trying to explain to him why his Terrorgeist battle line couldn't use that, and it was like, this doesn't make any sense, but I have to try and explain it.
Anything that's that complicated, probably there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Draconis is not a Behemoth.
There are so many. Yeah, just a leader. Okay, fair enough. So, well, that's a bit of a shame. But anyway, you could take a Stormdrake if you wanted to, plus the guy, but probably not.
Yeah.
So
you could do it to transition your wallet between editions.
Well, most people probably got a Stormdrake, right? So it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. If you're playing Stormcast, there's a really good chance that you have.
Yeah, anyway, well, you could do it, but yeah, probably not likely. Thanks for that, Jack. So you also
Talk about a pretty dragon.
add 3 to your casting rolls when you're not hurt. But you got to take over 8 wounds for that to drop. So that's pretty, like, even if you've taken 11 wounds, you're still going to be at plus. You're going to be at +2, which to
And
force
healing exists, right?
well, to put like Mystic Shield through, or like, you know, one of their amazing spells, because let's be honest, their spells are amazing.
So good.
Yeah, and then you've got this ability, which is you can use this spell. It's a cast on a 9 and a range of 24, and you can choose an effect. So it's -1 to their hit rolls, or worsen their rend, or subtract 1 from their attacks of missile weapons, or subtract 1 from their save. So like, you've got this debuff
like
with a long range.
With 4 of the best debuff abilities in the game.
Completely tailored to what you want it to be. Like, and
oh, it's insane flexibility.
And his attacks are still not rubbish. He's got like 4 attacks at freeze and, well, 1s, but it can go up to 3 ups. It's basically going to be freeze and freeze unless you're almost dead. Rend 2, damage 3. That's crazy. Then 3 attacks, freeze, freeze, rend 2, damage 2. So his combat output is nuts. Like, yep. I think his output is way more than a unit of dragons in potential.
I don't know, depending how people are building their lists as well, you could put Flaming Sword on it as an option, in which case your damage just got
crazy, especially if you do it on the tail, and then you go into a big infantry unit, and you're just like, I've got 2 attacks at damage 3. Delete them all.
Absolutely grim.
And like, if they've got an infantry unit with like 2 attacks, you've just half their damage output, because all of them would have 1 attack. You know, so it's like,
but it's casting bonuses as well. Like, you pick that infantry unit, give them -1 save, and give yourself +1 damage.
Yeah. Or just make -1 to hit as well. So -1 to hit and -1 attack. I mean, I had some great fun with Nagash using his spells to great effect against Gargants. I think at one point he was -2 to wound, -2 attacks, -2 to hit, because I basically rolled the 9+ on Decrepify, Overwhelming Dread, and Fading Vigor. So it's -2 attacks, -2 to hit. I was like, he's basically not doing anything.
It's a good comparison, Russ. Like, that spell lore is about as debuffy and OP as this guy's accessible spells from his scroll, plus the brilliant spell lore from the book. So obviously you don't get to know everything, but, you know, the fact that you know one spell that has all the options you could ever want in a debuff is a very good start.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, actually, you can't take Flaming Weapon because he's unique, isn't he? So, but you don't need it, because the Stormcast lore is so good. So, but his tail's still going to hurt, even without that. So let's just talk about the spells while we're doing it. So Lightning Blast is basically closest enemy unit takes D3, so it's not brilliant. You got Azerite.
You're not low on D3s either.
Yeah, so if you do roll a 6 on your save, you do a mortal wound back, so you could do mortal wound bounces. So if you're worsening their rend or doing something like that, then it's really good. You can add 1 to wound rolls, which is huge. You've got Chain Lightning, which is pick an enemy unit, takes D3 mortal wounds, then each other unit within 6 on a 3-up takes 1 mortal wound, which is really good. Then Thundershock, roll dice for each enemy unit within range, on a 3+ subtract 1 from wound rolls. There you go, that's the one I was thinking about. Thundershock is a cast on the 6, 18 inches from him, roll a dice for every enemy unit within range on a 3+ -1 from wound rolls. There you go. Don't need the command trait.
You're good. It's disgusting.
And then Starfall, which is pick a point on the battlefield, roll a dice for every enemy unit within 3 on a 3+. They cannot make piling moves. So that's the other one you do. So you basically do a range locus, go in and go, you can't pile into me, so I can just poke you on the corners with my dragons. You can't do anything. You're not going to kill me. You can't pile in, and I'm just going to hit you. So it's
got
crazy.
The Stormkeep in the chat. We've got some die-hard Stormcast love here.
They're
I don't think he needs to know every spell in the lore, though.
It'd be gross.
Not that you're biased or anything. Stop it.
He's good enough.
Stop it.
You just wouldn't know what to cast, would you? I don't know. For me, like Thundershock is ace.
I don't see why you wouldn't be looking at that unless you've got a specific like turn one plan, one drop style list which fits with something else and it wouldn't be in range or something.
But you could always translocate him.
What's the you could translocate him. I was just going to say moving him into range that's a good enough spell that's worth doing, especially if you can move into a range where you're not going to be at risk of being dispelled, but with his buffs, he's a good caster.
So +3, I mean it's difficult.
Good start,
yeah. So Karazai the Scarred, or as Scar from the Lion King, as we like to affectionately call him. So he's basically the reason, like he's basically the same. Like he's got 2 extra attacks on his jaws, which is big. It is big. Because they're annihilating jaws, apparently.
They're good, but I don't think it's big in this army, though.
The only thing he's got is that every time he destroys an enemy unit, you can apply the relevant effect. So if the enemy was a hero monster, add 1 to attacks used by this unit. If it had a wounds characteristic of 3 or more and was not a hero, add 1 to run and charge rolls. If the enemy had a wounds characteristic of 2 or less, you can heal 1 wound. So he gets a little bonus. I don't see why you take him over the other one.
I completely agreed. I don't think it is I just don't think it's a discussion you need to have fairly obviously. I mean, is he a wizard? No. Are you low on, potential D6 damage stuff in your army? No. There's a lot of the rest of it mortal wounds, which are more reliable and they're everywhere. Yes. So I don't think he needs discussing. Model's better. Love the model. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted a more combat monster to the other guy, then he is better in combat technically. But
what do you want, double dragon?
Yeah, I mean it can work. You're not much of an army, but they are.
I don't think that's
scary.
I don't think that's bad at all. That's the reason to take him, as if you've already got the other one.
I wonder if you could fit in 2 dragons, 1 unit of 4 dragons, and then some battle line that are cheap. Maybe we'll see. Because the dragons will still be battle line, right? Because he's a Draconith, so.
Yeah, they would be. So you'd only need 2 baby units of 5 anythings. That would be a swaggy list. That would be incredibly fun to play as well.
It just loses the alpha, doesn't it? You just don't have that alpha strike potential.
I think you'd feel very, very upset if you played Gargants as well. So they're me, but better. They didn't feel like they sacrificed anything for this list.
I reckon you'd rinse Gargants with it. Because the 2 dragons charging on Gargant should, and with you shooting and stuff, you should delete it.
Yeah, maybe you would actually. I mean, they're good. Like these guys are worth their points.
I mean, you'd have 10 attacks for 3 damage, which could be basically 30 wounds because they're Ren free. They basically can have a 6-up save if that.
Yeah, a couple of debuffs as well, which you might get off against Gargants pretty reliably. So.
I would like to do double dragon just so you could like wear a red headband and stand back to back with your mate all weekend. People know they know.
It'd look incredible as well, and it would be
it'd be a kid in 1,000 points if you could do it right, but I don't think you can. It'd be like doubles, 1,000 points each, 1 big dragon and 2 units of something.
That's 600. Yeah, I don't think you could get to him in battle line.
Well, you only need 2.
Doesn't count.
You only need 2, don't you?
Oh yeah, you do.
So
yeah, we've got everyone thinking now. Jack's doing some maths and struggling with it.
It'd be fun.
Oh, 10 points short.
Double dragons. It'd be like
absolutely.
Because I don't know if you could go like Krondys or Karazai, 2 Drake guys, and then 1 other battle line. You wouldn't be able to fit it in because you'd only have 60 points. So, but you could definitely do the dragon and other things. You would need to have the big ones. Shame. Just have a 1,200 point tournament so you could do it.
Why not?
So I want
to. Should we jump into some lists, or what's going to do?
Yeah, before we do that, I just want to talk about like some of the allegiance abilities and Scions versus Stormkeep and all that kind of stuff. Just it's fairly obvious stuff, but it's worth discussing. So this obviously when we get into list crafting, we'll talk more about it. But I think Stormhosts, there's some argument about what you take.
Yeah, I think it's more open than people think. I'm gonna BRB and get some lemonade and listen to you educate me.
Okay, I can educate you. So essentially you can basically take Scions or Stormkeep. You're probably going to take Scions so you can drop from the sky. It's it's a fairly decent choice because you're not going to really have any Redeemer units to worry about the Stormkeep. The only reason you might is if you were taking, because the dragons can move anyway, and you'd probably, if you're not going to use the drop from the sky, you might go Stormkeep if you were going to have some Redeemer units to fill out your battle line if you didn't want to go all in on dragons. So you might do, but I quite like the idea of taking Scions, so then taking the guy that lets you drop 7 away. And if you play Tempest Lords, you can reroll one of the charge dice, so it's very reliable. So you
Cogs?
I don't rate it, so because you've got to be within range of where you cast it, and you've got to have a wizard give up a cast, and it's like it's because it's changed, it's not as good, and it's a lot of points. I just don't think you got the points to do it. So
I don't think you squeeze it in. Yeah, if you end up with enough points, yes. If not, then
I don't think the 2 do kill a giant, but they might kill a giant. But 2 with 4 other guys and shooting, and then on a second turn, they will kill a giant. So it's not, you don't necessarily have to kill them in one turn. You just have to get them low enough that you can kill them the next turn. Basically,
yeah.
From what my experience, because basically the Gargant player is going to retreat out of combat, and then you're going to then charge him and kill him, and then you can, it kind of, it's a force multiplier, especially with Karazai, because every time he kills one, he gets better, so he can chomp through. So
don't forget, in any of the maths you do in Stormcast, you need to remember what happens when they die as well, and it really does make a very big difference, because when you're looking at small margins of do I kill it, don't it, popping on a load of wounds if it kills one of your guys, which it could do, it really does screw with probability quite a lot. It makes things very reliable.
Yeah. So in terms of command traits, if you go Scions, then the Scions drop from the sky thing. You can be -1 to hit rolls, which is okay. Staunch Defender won't really help you. So Envoy might help you, because if a friendly or Stormcast Tunnel model is slain wholly within 12 of the general, you can add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target the slain model's unit. If you take a unit of 4 dragons and they kill one and they have multiple units attacking it, that could be useful, but it's so situational, I don't think you're going to have it.
Yeah, it's got the word if in it.
Yeah, it's like it's too many, like you need this and this and this and this. And then Master's Celestial Menagerie, if it's a monster, we talked about that, you can't give that to the guy anyway if you've got the Knight-Draconis. So you're probably going to go to the core rulebook for a command trait, I'd imagine, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, it's a good shout, Stormkeep, which is the it only works on models with 3 or less wounds, apparently. Let's go. So in terms of artifacts, honestly, Mirror Shield is one of the standouts for me, because it's basically you just can't be shot at unless you're within 9. So that stops people with like just picking you off your hero that gives you the synergy and is good in combat and could do the shooting hero phase. So I think that's pretty good. Don't know what you think.
It's whatever makes things more well-rounded. I think you look at the list and then you look at what you think you're going to struggle with, and whatever that thing is, I think you don't need help doing what you do more anyway. So what do you think is going to help you against the things that are issues for you? Is there anything that's going to help you against, Marathi bow snakes or something like that?
Yeah, Mirror Shield does, because it stops them being shot off. So Quicksilver Draft is good, because end of the charge phase you can say you a drink and then the bearer fights at the start. So if it's your go,
really
you can
good.
fight, and then you can fight with a unit, because start of the phase is
really, really good.
So and also if they charge you, you can hit them first. So that is a really good option.
It's worse on things that aren't, you know, heavy hitters, but at Ren 3, you're a heavy hitter. So
yeah, and I don't think there's much else thinking about. And then obviously you've got the typical normal ones like Amulet of Destiny and all that kind of stuff. If you want to go down that route, we need to talk about those. Everyone knows what they do.
justify not taking Amulet of Destiny. Go.
Mirror Shield's probably the only one. Then, unless you're not allowed to because it's a team event, and you won't be. So, then you've got the Noble Beast mount traits. So, you've got your Griff Charger Dracoth or Dracoline only. So you can't take that because he's not a Dracoth. So he's a Draconith. So he's not a Stardrake, so you can't take that one. So you've got retreat and still shoot or charge, but it's shoot or charge, not both. So that's pretty good though. Particularly if you're worried about being gummed up by Marathi and things like that.
Yeah. I love stuff like that. I think it's quite a big deal, really.
Envoy of Lightning could be useful. It's a bit situational, but you use Scions on that character. He's not a wizard. He doesn't need to put any buffs up, so you could keep him off the table and drop him. Then you roll a dice for each enemy within 10. On a 4-up, they take D3 mortals, which is like, meh, okay. Scintillating Trail is subtract 1 from binding rolls for enemy wizards for spells cast by Eternals wholly within 12. So if you're not using a wizard, then that's irrelevant. So, And then you've got Thunderous Presence, which is instead of carrying out a rampage, pick one unit within 1 inch of that unit and roll a dice. On a 3+, they cannot receive commands in the following battle shock phase. And this one is probably a go-to because it's not it's not a monstrous rampage. So Hunters of the Halflands doesn't make you immune to it. Plus, it's not raw. So if you want to raw something else and do this on someone else,
2 places at once.
You can.
It's big.
So it's very good.
I can't get past Instinct. Like I love things like that so much. Like it's unique in the game, being able to retreat and do it. And you're right about Marathi, or big blocks, or I don't know, something. If you're in combat with something you can't kill that's got enough to save or something like that, I think it's.
Sometimes you just want the ability to like stop fighting what you're fighting and go kill somewhere else. So just being able to run games out and charge, it's just.
Your opponent can't play around it.
No, exactly.
When you played with the Iron Jaws, like doing stuff that your opponent can't deal with thingy, is it Iron Suns?
So like counter charging or charging.
Yeah.
Out of sequence is very strong.
Screws with people's heads.
Oh yeah, massively so. So it's that's why I like Iron Suns.
Arcane. Oh, it's so good. I wouldn't consider anything else. Yeah, Arcane Tome, Flaming Weapon, or Celestial Blades, and Master of Magic command trait is a great combo for Nitroconus. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty well-rounded character with that stuff on. Like, what more do you want for your points?
Yeah,
that's pretty tasty. If you had him and the dragon as well, that's not a bad magic phase, and it's a decent amount of dispels, which has got a value for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's solid. I mean, you can basically turn him into a pocket wizard, or you can, just not bother. It depends. Like like I say, it's. I think I'd rather do that than have the Amulet of Destiny, if I'm honest. Just having access to a Mystic Shield is massive to put on the 4 dragons or whatever, So. Command point
if you don't have one of the big boys. Yeah. Well, just look at Sons of Behemoth. Like, what's a good option for them?
Yeah, and it's basically the same, right?
This type of spam list plays pretty similar. It doesn't have a wizard, so giving yourself an option for a wizard is pretty huge. Also, the speed that they move at, you can probably buff something with him with your opponent not able to stop it from going off. So you just be going on your casting value and then still reach them with the unit that you put Mystic Shield on.
Yeah. So you also get your holy commands. So you get to pick one of these. You can, if you've got an every enhancement, you can pick one, but I think you're probably going to go battle regiment. So Obviously, you're not going to use Call to Aid because you're not using Redeemers, unless you were somehow filling out your battle line in a balance list. Then you've got the Steadfast March, which is until your next hero phase unit can run and charge. So that's obviously quite good. I know you've got the movement. Your hero doesn't have the movement, so giving him run and charge is fairly solid. Also quite nice if you're taking the big dragon. You do give up shooting though, so it's just how it is. You haven't got Justicar or Angelos units really, so you're not going to use that. You haven't got Paladins, so you're not going to use that. And then final Thunderstrike is fairly good. So you can add 1 to the Blaze of Glory battle trait. So this is pretty good because it's add 1 to the roll, so you're doing mortals on 5s rather than 6s. So rather than the Thunderkeep, or whatever it's called, the Thunderstrike armor, which gives you +1 dice, this gives you +1 to the roll. So it's quite nice if you know you're going to have a lot of damage coming in your big unit, then the damage you do back is pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a very good way of thinking it. I hadn't phrased it in that way, but yeah, because it's reliable.
You're trading basically. They've gone in, done their stuff. They're countercharging you. Then you just go, yeah. So, yeah, it's good. So. But out of the other abilities, like none of them do anything for your army, right? So it's like, why would you take anything else?
No. Yeah, I mean, you can't have everything. The army is kind of extreme in one direction, so a lot of this stuff makes less sense for it.
Mm-hmm. Like a run and charge might be useful.
I think it's terrible.
You're so fast, why do you need it? So
yeah, I don't think it's terrible for and if it's relevant, then it's the most relevant, so it's the least terrible.
So in terms of Stormhost then, so you obviously got Hammers of Sigmar that gives you a 6-up ward if you're within range of an objective, so not too bad.
No, not at all.
Hallowed Knights isn't going to do anything for you. Then Celestial Vindicators, pick units made a charge move until your next hero phase. So start the combat phase, pick a Celestial Vindicator unit that charge till the next hero phase. If the unmodified hit roll made for attack by melee weapons by that unit is a 6, it does 2 hits instead of 1. So that's pretty solid. If you've got a big unit of dragons and you charge them, you're just going to go, well, I'm spiking, but it's good as well because it says until your next hero phase. So unless that's been FAQ'd, that's going to happen in your turn when you charge, and then if they get their go, it's going to be in their turn again because you haven't had your go yet. So especially if you're going first, then it's going to be doing that. So
especially if you've got a Mystic Shield and you got a big unit that you're buffing, and you're just like, like chew on that for 3 rounds of combat. Wow.
Yeah. And then like the anvils, so end of the charge phase, you can roll 2d6 for an enemy unit within 1 of any anvils or Heldenhammer. The rolls great in their bravery. The first 2 wounds are negated. It's too much ifs for me to want that.
Yeah, the word if appears too much. Done.
Yeah, and like you've got to roll over their bravery, and there's some bookkeeping, and it's quite good. I mean, obviously, like if you ignore the first 2 wounds, that's quite big, but it's too much. It's too situational for me. Knights Excelsior is all about paladins, so that's not going to do anything. Warbringers, you can reroll 1 hit wound, roll for an attack or 1 save roll. It's okay, once per phase, so it's quite nice for efficiency if you're, if you fancy it. But for me, it's Tempest Lords is really strong because basically you can reroll 1 of the dice for a charge roll. So it's really strong because you just go, well, I'm going to reroll that 1 dice. It's command point efficient. Yeah. If you don't charge, you don't do anything. So I'm quite Tempest Lords, I think, is a good option.
I think anything that makes your charges more reliable in this edition of the game is massive, and you've not got many units. And the way that armies like this lose games is by getting a bit of, far beyond bad luck, i.e., failing a charge on a reroll or something with your unit of 4. Like you might have just gone straight from pretty much winning the game turn 1 to losing the game turn 1 in certain scenarios there. So I like that one.
Yeah, the look at Gabe trying to get inside info. Love it. So
dude, it's a team event. I love my boys, but not that much. Boys and girls. The 5+ ward is insane. It's really good. I've played against that in a paladin list, and it's pretty filthy on Stormcast. Really, really is.
Yeah, when I was talking about Hallowed Knights, I'm talking about the Stormhost ability. But yeah, Gardus is a nice piece. It's just whether or not you've got the points to use him. If you want to put him in the army, it's okay. Like
is it a bubble as well? His 5+.
Yeah. So, but
yeah,
it's only
12, isn't it?
So it's once per battle at the start of your charge phase, declare a Saintly Assault. You can reroll charge rolls for any Hallowed Knight units wholly within 12, and add 1 to the attacks of melee weapons used by Hallowed Knight heroes wholly within 12. But so I'm pretty sure the normal guys don't have the hero keyword, but it would just be your hero character. So I think it depends on if you were playing a mixed list. I think Hallowed Knights would be good because you'd probably have the other units that would benefit. So it's but yeah, Gardus is cool, but
yeah,
I don't
we'll
think
talk about the mixed list at some point in the future. There's some pretty amazing lists, I think, that have some of these and not an entire army of them.
And the Astral Templars is you can't be picked when you do a monster when the opponent carries out a monstrous rampage, which seems a bit meh, but actually in the current meta, if you take Battle Regiment, you're not in Hunters of the Halfland.
Yeah.
Being roared, +1 to hit against you, all the stuff that you could do at Titanic Jaw, all this stuff that, particularly with Gargants everywhere, like it seems like a really weird choice, but I think actually it's not a bad choice because the net result of you not being able to do all-out defense is massive. Of them being able to get +1 to hit is massive. Because the amount of times that I've had roared at me with Nagash or whatever, and then you're like, I can't, it just, the math swing too much. It's too much of a big swing.
It does. Massively. And, a huge strength of your army is that everyone gets to do the monstrous stuff. Like I said early on, I think the way you pick these is you pick the things that counter the army's weaknesses, because the army is not diverse. It's not a toolbox. Well, the unit that's in it is a toolbox, but the army isn't a toolbox. It only really does it has one set of scrolls, basically. So you take the thing that helps you against the stuff that is an issue, being Marathi or Gargants or stuff like that.
Yeah. I still think I would start off with Tempest Lords just to get the reliability on the charge. Particularly if you're using Scions, it's just seems like the obvious choice.
Agreed. I am down. That is a power. I don't know what the maths is on that, but it's
good.
Pretty.
It makes a huge difference.
Good.
Because it's if you rolled a 4 and a 1, then suddenly you're like, oh, I reroll the 1. There's a lot higher chance of making that 9-inch. It's like
oh, completely. Well, the chance of one of your dice being a 5 or 6 is pretty high, and then you're on a 50-50 for making the charge with the 1 dice that you reroll. So
yeah, it's basically 33% for a 5 or a 6 on that dice. So it's a lot better odds than rerolling 2 dice and trying to get a 9+, basically. So particularly if you pop a 6 on one of the dice, it's just become a 66% chance. So
mental.
It's
not only that, but long charges are really helpful with a lot of things. Particularly if you got some reach 3 kicking it out, which your entire army has.
Yeah,
Gabe's just learnt his team's list name. I'm hoping for some more sexy pictures of you, Gabe. I've seen your last approach to teams events. I'm down.
And I thought I'd mention this because it's worth talking about. So a lot of the new books have got battle tactics or the White Dwarf updates. and normally these are quite
Yep.
situational. There are actually some really good dragon themed
Doesn't feel like a
ones.
fluff page, does it?
No,
It does not feel like a fluff page. Not like, oh, if this is exactly like one of the standard ones, but half as doable. It's these are good.
so like even things like Hammer Strike Assault, pick a hero in your opponent's starting army. If there's wounds captured 10 or more and there's 0 wounds allocated to it, you complete if you kill it. That is very doable if you're going to concentrate fire on it with your Mortal Wound Breath and charging. You're probably going to kill it.
Yeah.
Draconith Destruction, pick a unit on your opponent's starting army that has 10 or more models. You complete this if it's destroyed by wounds caused by Draconith, Stardrake, or Dracoth units during the turn. So again, that's doable. You know, and the breath weapon is an attack because it's still got an attack profile. So
yeah, I was just gonna say it's not a war scroll ability, is it? In that sense,
no, it's still classed as an attack. It's just the drag to their doom or whatever it's called don't think would count. Then you've got a Matter of Honor. Pick one monster in your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. You complete its tactic if the unit is destroyed by wounds caused by a Draconith or Stardrake during its turn. So you've basically got to never bring it down, but you don't get a bonus point. So it's like sometimes like having the option for these things like is quite good. Like they're not
early game. You can just save up your easy ones. End of game, or you might think one of these is super doable.
There'll be a time in the game where one of these is very easy, and you just go, I can pick that. And you might have already used bring it down or whatever, you know. So it's like it's worth noting that they're not. It's not like, oh, they're never going to come up or won't even look at them. A bit like when I played Iron Jaws, I rarely look at the Iron Jaws ones because they're just worse than the generic ones, and you never really need it. But it's worth just remembering that they are there because it's easy to forget about them. Especially if you like me and you just look in the handbook and go, "These are the ones I got" or whatever. So.
Well, luckily, if you're playing this army, you've got 3 war scrolls to think about, so it gives you plenty of opportunity for remembering all the other stuff in the game at the moment.
Yeah, and you know, there are probably hundreds of combos with stuff in here. Now, I am, and you know, Philippi touched on it earlier. I've not played much with the new Stormcast book. I've played Stormcast in the past, so it's me just kind of talking about it, so I might miss things. I'm sure there's people out there that are way more informed on
we got someone in the chat
in and out of the room, so put it in the chat and help us out. That's fine. But it's probably worth talking about translocation before we get into this. So a Lord Relictor or any priest, honestly, has access to translocation, I believe. I'm not wrong on that, hopefully. And it's basically you basically cast it, and then if it's on a 3+, pick a Stormcast unit, hold within range, you remove that unit, set up anywhere 9 away for the enemy units. Now, it's been FAQ'd that you can't move in the movement phase, but this is a bit like when you green hand a unit with Iron Jaws, and then you use Mighty Destroyers or Fasten. Because you can use the hero phase move to move your dragons. So
which is on their war scroll, so it doesn't require them to be next to a hero or anything.
No. But they've got but they've also got a champion anyway. So if you want to issue a command ability, you can. And what's nice about that is you could always teleport a unit, move them, and charge your opponent without ever getting out of the hero phase.
Oh, it's mental.
So like there's no Unleash Hell, there's no redeploy, you know, and nobody can really set up to avoid that. It's very hard. It's pretty to avoid that.
Pretty powerful. Yeah. And then at the point, you know, if you want to double team that unit, you've got rid of the stand and shoot already.
Yeah, so you can just pin it, get something into the shooters to stop them doing stand and shoot, and then the rest of your army can run in and not without worry about redeploys and things like that. So because they're pinned in combat already, so they're not going to be moving.
Yeah. He's 145 points. He's a very viable option, I think, in the list, and obviously he won't affect your being a 1-drop either because he's a low wound hero.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of an argument: is do you take one unit less dragons to put in a couple support heroes? I did have it pointed out that the guy who I was thinking of, the new one that lets you go within 7, won't work on dragons, which is a shame. But Gardas could be an option, or even take the
I'd blob a prime in there.
The Vexilla banner.
He's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The heroes are quite fun in Stormcast. You may find as well after like 5 games of this list, you want a bit more variety in there. They can do a lot of things, but there's you could be playing with 2 war scrolls, which is about as low as you can play within the entire game. So if you want some more variation in your list, or you don't want to buy as many boxes of dragons from the offset, then it's not a big sacrifice to change to these at all. In fact, it might be more flexible.
Yeah, and there's loads of good options here. I mean, even like taking a one of the guys who's got the Cycle of the Storm ability, where if a Stormcast model slain within 18, so removing it, you can heal a wound to say it doesn't count as being slain. That could be super amazing.
Oh yeah, well, a 9 wounds, dude. Yes, please.
Some of their heroes are great. I mean, like, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but they are super solid. And like even like +1 save from the Castellan, and they're the classic ones that I know from the old book. So I might be using the So yeah, wounds catches a 3 or less for the Lord Imperative, which is a shame, but there you go. But he does have this command point efficiency. Once per turn, issue a command ability without a command point being spent, so still not a bad option. Particularly if you're playing a mixed army.
Or just having more heroes in there as well. Like you're gonna come in some games in a little bit of a sticky situation if you are rocking the 1 or the 2 instead of the 2 or the 3 or however many, or the 4.
Yeah. So it's all good. I think the Cycle of the Storm apparently has been nerfed, but I don't know what it is. So
okay.
Before you allocate a wound. Oh yeah, it's changed. It doesn't stop you dying. It just stops 1 wound. Yeah, it's not worth taking. So
it did sound a bit too good.
Wow, like if you could basically stop your 18 wound
on
model
150
getting killed.
points worth of dude. Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, just seen that. Thanks for that, Stark. So
yeah, cheers, dude.
Like I say, I've not had the opportunity to play with them since the new books come out. So we've been
There's
playing
also 80 scrolls in this book.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So most of my
there's 80 scrolls in the book, but half the reading comes from the 4 pages of army abilities.
Yeah. Cool. So there you go. I think so. I mean, it's not that exciting.
You don't need to.
Like,
can we write one of the mix lists? Because I like just to give people a taste of that. Or
we've kind of talked about this list already, which I put up. Obviously, it's not 1680 points. That's old points. Which is basically Knight-Draconis, 10 dragons in any flavor combination you want. If that's and you put it in battle regiment, it's 1 drop. Then you can choose your host, your artifacts, whatever you want to flavour, whether that's your Wizard Draconis, which I probably would go for. Then you take Tempest Lords, or you could take Celestial Vindicators, or whatever, whichever, and then your whatever you want to take. So basically, that's what you get. 2,000 points on the nose. Ignore the fact it's 1680. So yeah, so it's not that interesting, I guess. Now, one of the things that you could do is you could drop the 4. And you could literally add in Krondys, and this would actually come out at less points, because it's going to be, what would that be? 40 points less.
Our conclusion was not that the dragon lists are dead. Stark.
No,
not at all, dude.
No,
they are a problem level.
Yeah, I think if they hadn't have got changed, it would have been dominant on the scene for however long that they would be out for, because actually I played. There are a couple armies they don't do it to, but most armies they play just do them in a turn. So in a turn one, you basically won the game. You just don't really want that in the game. I know I know someone's gonna say, "What about X, Y, Z?" And there are things, but
this exact example of this.
Let's have less of them. So
yeah, let's not beat 90% of the armies in the first turn of the game.
Yeah. So I mean, this list is 80 points under, so it's 2 for each of
James,
2.
pop the list up, please, Ross.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise I didn't have my boom. There you go. Thanks. So obviously ignore the points. So this is actually 1920. So this is just a Nitroconus, Krondys, 3 units of 2 Stormdrake Guard. And because you've got Krondys, you could take an endless spell. So you've got 80 points to play around. All right, you could take Cogs. God's sake.
Yeah. Hey, making charges is important. The first time that unit of 4 fails to charge, you're going to feel bad. Oh, well, you only got 2 there.
Yeah. But I think, like, if you take Krondys, you're taking him because you like the idea of having a big dragon. But I do actually think he's better than what you're probably quite surprised at how good he is in output wise. I think his output's nuts.
I completely disagree about Krondys is not bad, and he is worth 600 points.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth the points, I think. So I think for me, what I would quite like to do is the thing is, if you take Stormdrake Guard, you're pretty much wanting to take the Knight-Draconis because it adds so much output to the Stormdrake Guard. But if you wanted to go, let's do that list first. Like, what would you go? Relictor. It's a bit hard to do this because obviously the points aren't right, so you have to kind of bear with me. I'm sort of doing it on a calculator as I'm doing it on the list here. So, and also they've got 1 billion warscrolls to go through. So,
while you're going through that one, I will talk about the one that I see as the Les Martin, like 2022 edition, because I think there's a lot of scope for it. So the old Les Martin TM build used to be, this is old Stormcast, used to be 3 units adjudicators, a Stardrake, either 2 units of 2 or 1 unit of 4 of the foot Dracoths, and then slightly more heroes than you could fit in this one because these dragons are more expensive than the foot Dracoths. But I think there is definitely scope for 3 units of 5 battle line dudes, a unit of 4. I think works really, really, really well. One of the big dragons, and then just squeezing whatever else you can into the rest of it, which is probably like 1 to 2 foot heroes, or you might even fiddle things around and get a prime in there or something like that. But I think if you buy like 6 of the guard, probably taking a 4, a 1, and a hero is a really good way to get a dragon feeling list. Of course, you can pop the big dragon in there as well, without having to buy the 6 boxes that will get you the full dragon army.
Yeah. Well, they're so expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Stark, you're right about the Draconis. He adds a lot more if you got the 4 block. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about the dragons going up, dropping 1 unit gives you a hell of a lot of points to play with. So this has got 200 points less than this list. So this has actually got 200 points spare. So it's got a 4, a 2, and a 2, a Nitroconus and a Knight Relictor, and you've got 200 points left over. So that could be another hero with like even something like a Vexler banner. But if you wanted to, I think Gardas is only 160, so you could take Gardas, go into Hallowed Knights, and do the combo that Stormkeep was talking about, which with translocation and things like that, and that could still fit in Battle Regiment.
I'd be very tempted to drop the Relictor and put Prime in there. That's a fun list.
Well, basically, it's you drop 1 unit of dragons, you get 340 points. So that could be a Prime, that could be Bastion, that could be Yndrasta. I know don't do a lot, but Bastion is actually like, even if you're not playing hammers, it's just his ability to like ping mortals on a monster is just really good. Just I do like it. So the reason I like the Draconus is he has just the he's just the damage, the 5 attacks at rent free is just crazy. Sorry, that's meant to be a Lord Relictor. Sorry. I forget they added a shit one. I just picked the wrong one on the list. There you go. So, thanks for that. No, he's meant to be a lord.
What happens when you got 40 heroes available?
I just forgot they added that really crap one that nobody takes in. Yeah.
Like the Venator. Why would you not take the sexy one these days?
Yeah. So, you know, you've got that ability to take that, and also it drops your list below 2k. So you go something like that. So it's 5 points more, but it's still 305 points. You still got 35 points under. So it's nice because you've got a chance at a triumph then. But you don't have to take Gardas. You could take something else, like, you know, whatever. You just find something you want to take. It's kind of it's fine.
Lists everywhere.
Yeah. And like you say, a prime is a good option as well.
The prime is obscenely good
because you take the prime with it, and you're 325. You've just popped yourself 15 points under, so your chance for a triumph.
Mega.
And you've got all the stuff the prime does.
Got some disgusting threat in that. Like, that's a really, really high level of pressure you can put on someone. The other nice thing is, Prime's 10 wounds, isn't he?
8.
10 wounds, but he's 8. He's 8 wounds, but 4 up save. So yeah, he doesn't screw up your drops. And he's very, very, very good for his points now.
Yeah, because he's a sub commander technically, isn't he? So
yeah, obscene, because he may as well be 16 wounds. He's got a 4 up save. He just plays around battalions really nicely.
Yeah, that's what I would probably do. Stormkeep, so I talked about earlier, would be like taking the Lord Relictor, and the is it still a Lord? Is it still a Lord Castellan? They don't have a Knight Castellan now, do they? They obviously didn't have a model for the 100th hero. No, okay, good. So yeah, for the lantern for the extra save. Obviously, what's nice, it's hero phase, so you could save your unit of 4 dragons, then hero move them forward, then move, and then they've already got a automatic mystic shield.
Yeah.
So, like I say, there's
loads of options.
There's lots of options just by playing around with things like that. I think
a load of people have these heroes that, you know, maybe even already painted as well, which is very nice for people. You get to slide into the army in a slightly less expensive fashion. You've got some of it built and painted already, potentially.
Yeah, but basically you're looking at 980 points.
How you doing, mate?
Hey, Dave. I hope you're doing well with your new family and you're not dad brain. It's past 9 o'clock. Should be in bed.
Thinks this is a dream.
No, I don't care about the bonus points, because basically your army, you only give up 1 per battle round if they kill it all in 1 turn, or they kill 2 units, they only get 1 point. So it's like the bonus point, you can't worry about that. Monsters are,
you've either won or lost the game as well, right? Like, if you lose 2 units in a turn, like you're probably in a very bad spot, and it's very unlikely that you would. And quite a lot of the time, I think the full-on army is so good that maybe you already won the game.
I think as well, like, you've got the ability to score so many bonus points back by killing a battle line with a monster, getting 2 monsters in their zone, contesting an objective with a monster. It's like so many points you can get easily with those. So no, I don't think it's an issue. Like, if it was an issue, I don't think Gargants would be doing as well as they are. So I know they've got a lot of wounds, but you still drop 1 at battle round normally, so it still doesn't affect them because they net out better because they get more points, and the other person's probably got monsters as well. So
Gabe's in the chat if we'll have a lot of thoughts on that. Play them.
And I think your grand strategy becomes fairly self-explanatory and easy as well, because it's basically like keep a monster alive, right? So
no worries, Daddy Dave.
Yeah, I say it's on baby watch. So so effectively 4 and a Nitroconus is 980 points, but I would be tempted, because I think the Nitroconus is so good. Like, I think he's so good for his points. Obviously not, he's 300, so you could add 2. Was this where you were talking about the sort of when I was multitasking, not paying attention to what you're saying? Because that's what I do.
No, I was talking. It's all good. I was talking about the new version of the Les TM list, where you go like big dragon in place of Stardrake, one of the named guys, and then you have a 4 block of the dudes, and one of him. Maybe it was then.
Yeah.
You just do that, and then you take some infantry for battle line probably, of which there is a choice of like 5 amazing options in this book.
Yeah, I think like just Vindictors are so good, aren't they? Like,
oh, they are. Jeez, like this book is nuts good. None of it's like crazy sexy apart from the dragons, but so much of the stuff in here is ruthlessly efficient for its points.
Because that gives you effectively what 460 points left if you take 2 units of 5 Vindictors, 1 unit of 4 Stormdrake Guard, 2 Nitroconus. So that's so many options, really. I mean, even just a bog standard Stardrake's what, 500?
Yeah.
So that would allow you to take your thing, but it doesn't really affect much of your army. But yeah.
Stark, I think you can probably take out a Mega Return fairly reliably with a list because it's got that many mortal wounds, and you're so fast and flexible that you can pick the one that doesn't have the aftersave. So they're I don't get me wrong, I think they are an issue. They're one of the best armies in the game by a long shot at the moment, but you've got game against them with this.
Oh, 100%.
Like this is a strong list. This is now, it would have been more of an issue in the game than Megas, I think. No, I don't know quite where I'd put it, but it's damn good. It's really, really good.
The thing is as well, what you normally see, let's just pick a random map. So you'll see Mega Gargants. Just ignore the territories. I'm just gonna do this as bog standard sort of thing. Let me try and find the shape. Why am I not finding shapes?
Trying to find
there we go.
The hero one. You're right about him being impossible to find in the book. Top right hand of a random page out of 40 characters.
He's
doing my best.
Good luck. You typically see this like Gargant thing where they put the tree in a blob. Normally like that, probably. That's probably a Kraken, whatever that is. So, and then that's your ward save guy, and that's the cheapy one or whatever, ready to go and take that. So you get like this sort of thing. Now the thing about this is that what they want to do is push up their ward guy, kick their objective, and then basically like consolidate these 3. And then really what you can do is the ward save giant is a bit of a trap, because what people do is they charge into that because he's the closest one they can reach. He's more likely to survive, and then they can follow up charge with the others. But with the speed of the dragons, you could literally go round him and hit the rest of their army. So I actually think
they don't have access to a 6-inch pile-in or anything like that either. So with your hypermobility and the fact that they don't have screens, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and like a normal unwarded Gargant should drop to a focused amount of damage. Even if you don't drop it, you'll do enough damage to it, and it's probably not doing enough damage back to you for you to worry. And best day can only be in one place, right? So they're going to have the best day ever somewhere, and then you can...
Yeah. Before you're in, Stark, we were talking about the wounds you do when you die as well, and you're talking about slim margins. Here, it's like, it's pretty close whether you don't kill a Gargant. If it then hits you back, and some of your guys do mortal wounds to it when they die, that's often enough to tip the odds. We all know what it's like when a giant survives on, like 1 to 3 wounds. The odds of that happening with this type of army, with how Stormcast are now, you really push it. You push probability much more in your favor with abilities like that.
Yeah, and like you might not drop one in a turn, but I think you're going to do enough damage to it, and you should be able to weather the combat back without losing too much.
What's average, like per 2? What's the average amount of wounds from the shooting attacks?
It's really hard because it's really hard to work out an average, because basically a D3 or a D6 damage is equal chance to do 1 or 6 damage. So like I would say you're gonna have to commit 6 to 8 dragons to a Gargant easily to do enough. It is very swingy, and you might not kill it, but they haven't got a
2 or 3
save.
wounds per. It's in the shooting phase. It's like 2 or 3 wounds per Dracoth is netting out. That's about average. particularly one of those units shooting twice. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I completely disagree.
It doesn't
about
need
the
to do
wounds
a
when you
lot.
die.
It needs to do a couple
No.
extra is enough sometimes.
Yeah, dude.
1 or 2
Yeah,
is enough.
I'm not saying it's gonna. Yeah, I'm not saying it's gonna kill your opponent or it's broken or anything. But how much in Age of Sigmar does something survive just about on 2 wounds, or did you do slightly below average? It's all about netting out averages and making sure that if you get a slightly worse round of rolls or a slightly better round of rolls, you get to make the most of that. So I think it adds up well.
If with Gargants as well, it's massive if they've got a low wound Gargant and they charge you and they attack you and then they kill you and they've only got like 1 or 2 wounds left. It's like you could kill it. Like that's why I quite like the Holy Command where you do it on a 5, because rolling like 9 dice on a 5 up, you're probably going to do 3 mortals. So
very useful Stark on the 3.66 damage there. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's very hard to kind of. Gargants is a crapshoot anyway, like most armies.
Yeah, Gargants push odds hard.
I think one of the benefits you've got by playing Drakes is you can pick up a lot of the bonus points they can pick up, so they don't get too far ahead of you. Because I found when I played like Nagash Bloodlights, I only had 1 monster, so I didn't have enough to do like 2 in their territory and all the bonus points. Do it with a monster, kill a battle line with a monster. I didn't have it. Whereas when your whole army is a monster, like you've got the opportunity to do it. So it's good. Yeah. So yeah, I think Byron will be doing some dry brush videos, I imagine, on wins.
Oh, dude, I am scales for days. I'm going to be all over that the moment I can do, and I'm going to resist doing them tech-wise like a big boy.
I bet we'll see.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it'll be like you start off with a blue, you start putting greens and stuff into it, and you go, oh, it's certainly turquoise. So
it's always when I highlight my blues with bone, and bone's always got a bit green in it, and then you end up going slightly towards turquoise minimum.
Yeah.
What's their downfalls? That's a great question, Baz. I'll list a couple, and then Russ can add his thoughts on it. So your army has quite you're vastly mobile, but you have quite a small amount of places in the board you can be. So in particular, like if you get Bellacord and you got a unit of 4, that is going to feel grim AF. Like that might lose you a game. But you're going to have to play super carefully around that. People who are resilient to mortals and who output mortals themselves are going to be quite hard. And then the other one, which we might talk about in a little bit, is just people with a shit ton of wounds. If they've got a way to keep those wounds resilient or screen them or stuff like that. Your ability to pick out characters is seen. So if your opponent's strategy relies at all on one dude, it's quite difficult for them to stop you from killing that one dude if it's a linchpin. So I don't think they have many. The lack of variety in the list is one as well. Is there anything else you can think of, Russ?
Well, we spoke about it earlier, and I think you've listed off most of the ones. And it's a good point by Stark. What's interesting, I haven't played with it yet. I say yet because I'm planning to try it out.
Yeah.
So
I've played with mobile monsters with breath weapons a huge amount, and they seem nuts good.
I've seen it pre-nerf used, and it made me worry about the future of Warhammer. So I think the little changes. I still think
were they like a 12 out of 10, and now they're a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think they're definitely A or S tier, like around that bracket.
I can't see them not being. They're so
unique. Any list that's that polarized is going to have some bad matchups. So yeah, I still think Marathi Bow Snakes is a terrible matchup, but I still think the Marathi player needs to play well, because basically, if they're using something like the big snake block with the combat snakes with the Medusa, you can kill the Medusa super easy. You're not worried about the run and charge alpha because you're so fast, you could be out of the range of it. If they're using the shooting bow snakes, they've got to screen them effectively. If they don't have enough bodies, then you can be patient with the army. So depending on the scenario, so like it's got game, but it's a hard matchup. Gargants is a crapshoot. We've talked about that. Anything that can basically do lots of wounds, lots of mortal saves, you're not so bothered because you've got a lot of high quality rend attacks that don't care about doing mortal damage, but the shooting damage being neutered by a third or halved is big.
Yeah.
Debuffs as well. Like if you played against someone who can debuff your big unit, that's a big deal. That's why I would probably be tempted to go MSU, like take 5 units of 2 and not bothered with one big unit.
I think that's the more techie, harder to play but better version of the list myself. And I say this fully in the knowledge that if I was playing a list, it would have a 4-block in it. I think it's easier to play at like a solid level. But I think the 2-2-2-2-2 list in a really good player's hands would feel horrible and has far less weaknesses.
Yeah, I think Stark and Squirrel's both comments point to one thing. They don't have everything you need, but if you're in a team environment, you can control what you go against. So, yes, team environments tend to encourage skewed armies because you can dictate what they don't play. Generally,
oh, I'm not worried about Marathi bow snakes. Done.
Because I just don't play that
know?
one or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
so, and I think that there are lists which would be a problem for it, but also I think there are some lists that would just auto win. I use that term
a good list in the game as well.
Like they would do a very good effective number over. Like even I think playing against Iron Jaws, because they're not 1-drop. You could probably drop the Maw Crusher on turn 1.
Oh, using their jet like Iron Jaws without they got like a vampire camps feel, haven't they? If that mega boss goes down, it feels grim.
Yeah.
I think you're building a 4.5 list.
Yeah,
they're really good.
But I think if you're using the dragons as an alpha, I think effectively point for point Fulminators might be better.
Oh, but they are disgusting.
But
good.
They don't fly; they're not as fast. So it depends. I think the ability of the dragons being able to, you can basically say, I'm going to go and kill this thing and they can't get away from me. That cannot be understated how powerful that is. And the fact you can get around...
shooting swings hard as well, doesn't it? It doesn't have the same shooting attack. Is it D6 more wounds on a 4+? Yeah.
They keep changing it.
I'm on my way.
It's different every edition. You asked me a question, I don't know. You played against it.
Sorry, checking. Yeah, I think it is that. I'm just checking myself.
So, but I think that the ability to be able to get around things like redeploy, unleash hell, and to go effectively like 36 inches in a turn, the ability to drop from the sky. So that's why I quite like the 5/2s, because you can, depending on what you're playing against, you might put 2 units in the sky just because you're like, well, I want to have 2 flexibility, so they can't just run at me because they can't leave their backfield. So they've got to spread out, and as soon as they spread out, you can concentrate in one area because you're so fast. You can converge on a point and destroy it. It's like, it's just really interesting. So,
Mr. J, I disagree on that, mate. Yeah, it is 4+ for D3 mortal wounds. I'm not saying it's like an auto win against Gargants, but they definitely got game against them. And anyone being able to say that is pretty unique because Gargants are so good.
Yeah, because I think I played Gargants with Blood Knights and Nagash, and effectively like the Blood Knight damage isn't as effective. It doesn't have shooting, and it kind of felt like I could probably, if I just had an all Blood Knight army, I could probably beat a Gargant army consistently because the damage output, and it's not that much different.
I mean, you shooting twice with 1 unit of 4. If Stark's 3.66 wounds is per 2 is about correct. Is 1 second. Doing bad maths.
What, like for 15 mortal wounds or something?
Oh, it's more than that. It's
Did you say it's
3.66 per 2, and you're shooting
2?
with 7 2s, so it's 25 mortal wounds.
Yeah, I thought you were just talking about the 1 unit of 4 going twice. So,
well, 1 unit of 4 going twice plus the others. Like if you did want to concentrate fire, that's how many wounds you do before you get to combat.
Yeah.
I also think there's a very interesting discussion if you do have the big dragon in there, which is a very different list. How much those debuffs are going to completely neuter Gargants. with your +3 to cast is grim for them.
Yeah. And being able
so
to
if
like
you
unbind Mystic Shield or whatever is massive.
it's completely huge, which again is why having the wizardy hat on your one character is a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I always find it weird when people talk about like, is it a 3-2 or a 4-1 or a 5-0 army? It's like most armies could be a 5-0 army if you get the right matchups. Like Beastman could win 5 games if you played the right matchup 5 times in a row. So
interesting.
It's not very likely.
Interesting.
But, yeah. It's massively meta and player actually dependent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the best Beastman list that's ever been, which is the Cockatree spam list. I forget the guy's name from the UK, but he played it a bit, and it's really, really good. It's kind of a TTS army. The reason that was good is because it had a load of guys that on a 4+ to D6 mortal wounds.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi guys, and those guys have got like a 5+ save and 8 wounds. Imagine if you had a 3+ save and 9 wounds and were better and were from a better book and had a better spell lore and had better characters and weren't, the one of the bottom 2 lit books in the entirety of Age of Sigmar at a base level. Like, this is a good list.
Yeah, and I don't think I think now that they've had their points adjusted, they're not going to be as prolifically successful as they would have been. But that's a good thing.
Had 2 4s. Yeah. Well, I think you would have taken 2 4s, 2 characters, and a 2, and it would have maybe fitted in the old one.
Well, you can do it more scroll builder on the points because they haven't changed it yet. So
yeah, 4-4-2, and then actually no, I think maybe you won't be able to get the second character in.
Well, yeah, easy. 2 Knight-Draconis, 4, 4, and a 2, and you've still got 65 points left.
Cogs.
So yeah, you could have, but you can't anymore. Which is good.
Yeah, good. Well, both of those units would have got to shoot twice once. It's disgusting, isn't it?
Effectively, you've lost a unit of dragons or the hero, and the triumph. So
yeah, feels about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it's what you probably should get. Yeah, I think like in a Stormcast army, it'll be very common to see 4 dragons and a hero, or 2 dragons and 2 heroes. I think it's a good combo.
Yeah.
So like, even if you took,
cool. People are just going to buy them even if they weren't that good, and they are.
Because like it's your damage complement, and then on top of that you can go, I'll take like, heroes, bit of shooting, a prime, whatever.
That's the list that I'd be on.
100%. I think a prime is a very good addition to that, because he does so much. A very similar way.
Hero, land anywhere, super reliable, decent
guaranteed
save.
12-inch charge.
Yeah.
It's like, he drops from the sky, auto charges after his mortal wound stick and everything, and he's resilient, and yeah.
What armies pose? Should we talk about an army that would pose them a problem then, or do you reckon we've covered?
Well, you've talked about a bone splitters army, didn't you? Randomly.
Yeah. So, I know this is a really weird one. I wanted to think of something that wasn't, the obvious way to counter them. Bone splitters is not going to be anyone's first idea of what they think that would do well against them. But bone splitters have 2 things going for them. They're the only 2 things they have going for them, which is the most wounds in Warhammer. I am fairly sure that aren't, absolute crap. They're nearly crap, but they're not absolute crap. And then 1 turn of a very, very good save, being a 4+ after save across the entire army when they call their war. So yeah, I think there's 2 versions of this. You could do a boars list, and I'd say if people do have bone splitters, it depends whether they've already got one or the other, or some. You take a mix as well, obviously. But you take the war boss that you have to take, who's more easy to protect than I think people would think. He just stands at the back behind 5 million bodies. It's not like you struggle to create a screen. And then on the turn when the guys get in, you call the war, and I just don't think they're going to do nearly as much damage as the army kind of expects to do or is used to doing. And then the strategy with Bone Splitters, which is the only strategy they have without Rogue Idols, is to just tech out, swamp the board, buff saves, and play the objective game. And you're really not going to struggle to put more more models around things, at least the first couple of turns. So I think they've definitely got a little bit of game, and their screening game is very, very strong as well. If you wanted to just give someone a wave of 40 wounds with a 4-up mortal save, and potential other saves as well when it gets to your turn, I think they have a bit of game against them. And I actually think you could probably get away with putting Bone Splitters in a team environment when these guys are out, which is something I didn't think I would ever be saying.
I think the only thing that I would want to do is I want to play it out to see if, although you're not going to die to their alpha or their impact, you can only do wild once. And then are you going to do enough back to them that they don't grind you out, because they're going to score bonus points for being monsters. If they pick the right battle tactic, it's going to be very hard for you to outscore them, particularly if they're a 1-drop and you're not.
Yeah.
They're going to get the ball positions, they're going to pin you back, because they can basically go with impunity and charge you and go, well, I don't care. You're going to do a little bit. I mean, I know Icebone do mortals, so it's fine.
Depends a lot on the scenario. I think half the scenarios you'd have game with them, which again, team environment, if you knew the scenarios beforehand, that would be helpful. And then half would be quite a struggle. Like anything where they're really rewarded for coming and standing on your things and then screwing you up on them would be a bit tricky. But if there's something where they don't know where it's going to land or something like that, and you're just blobbing them and screening the board, and then just saving up your immune to battle shocks, I think it'd kind of be an interesting game to play, because at no point would you care about your damage output whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess so. I think if I was gonna pick an army that I think would be very good, it's going to be Marathi Bow Snakes. I think would be a good army against them.
Hands down, yeah.
But I think you would need to have the Witch Elf core to screen off the Bow Snakes. If you had the snake list, I think you'd struggle a bit.
Yeah, I think that the dragons could very easily end up, depending how you deployed with Marathi, if you cornered a bit or did some weird stuff, the dragons could end up kind of strung out on their own if they did try to reach you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to pick on one, bully it, and if you get priority with Marathi, and then Marathi goes and pins one, just does being Marathi.
Yeah. The important bit would be if you can actually just get something into her that can pin her with 2, basically.
Yeah.
And then let your others just go around and,
If she didn't, you want to buff that 2 up, because if she wiped them out, you'd be in a bit of a sticky position, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And then obviously you're feeding her, and then you're giving her
monster bonuses.
And also she could be retreat in charge if you played the right. I forget which one it is. It's either Keltnar or
Hellebrand.
No, there's not Hellebrand. It's one of them's got retreat in charge. I think it's Keltnar. It might be.
Even just going twice with something is potentially enough to wipe the unit out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I think it's I don't think it's a matchup that would be very nice, because just the shooting alone is nasty. If they deploy right, you probably shouldn't be able to get into them, and they got a long enough threat range that they can move up and shoot you with objective control, and Marathi's fast, so yeah, it's not ideal.
I don't think some fight, and it's a weird one, the kind of a bit last year or 3 years ago because of lockdown, but Fire Slayers potentially wouldn't be great with their after saves, and particularly if they got Gotrek in there, it's really, really not fun. Gotrek in anything is bad. Gotrek in any city's army would be a bit of a struggle as well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Keltnar.
Something debuffy. Yeah.
Nurgle. I mean, they got mortal wound saves. Yeah. They've got ways to stop you. I mean, with the Bile Pipers and stuff. I mean, the good thing is you should be able to kill them, but because they've got a 5-up disgusting resilient, you effectively have to do 8 to 9 mortal wounds rather than 6.
Yeah,
so it's you need to concentrate
dragons shooting attacks on it.
So I think it's important to to just recognize that can be quite tough, but your general attacks, you don't really get to take much damage back, and your general dragon just grinding are going to do so much damage to plague bearers and things. So yeah, Legion of the First Prince is always good. I mean, you've got Be'lakor, you've got, you know, all the plague bearer stuff, horrors, Kairos, all the stuff.
Weight of attacks from their shooting and stuff like that. You know, having 50 crap shots, there's still a chance of people rolling ones, and these don't have reroll ones. It's gone from the Stormcast book. It used to be there quite a lot. That's what made Fulminator so reliable against anything.
Yeah.
You know, just I'm shooting you with 50 shots. Maybe they're end one if you're in a certain faction. Oh, it's not Legion of the First Prince, so that's Siege. But yeah, like high volume of crap attacks with Rend 1 would actually be not.
I think like even just playing like your typical Nurgle battle line with, you know, your Exalted Chariot with your Kairos, your Instant Rage Bloodthirster, and Be'lakor.
Blades anywhere. Blades would be awful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think Lumineth don't like anything that can get across the table quickly and get into them, like Gargants and things like that. So I think Lumineth will really shit bricks against the Dragon army. And there's no dancing around with foxes because you just mortal wound them off with the breath weapon. So
if the Lumineth players were taking what I believe is the best way to go with them, which is to lean into the Spearman more, I think maybe they'd have
you'd reckon, because you just do so much damage with your breaths and stuff because you're not bothered. They've got no mortal wound protection.
Yet with Techless.
No.
Well, yeah, until they've been
if they've got Techless, but then if they've got Techless, you could just kill Techless. So it's like
yeah, his base is too big to be able to hide him, isn't he?
Yeah, and you're not reliant on magic, so you don't care about him stopping you, really.
Yeah,
and you're fast, so you could just get in. I think like Lumineth would just have a nightmare against you. I think you'd have to pick the right targets and play it right, but then Lumineth players have to play their army very well to do well with them. So they're not an easy army to play with. So
there aren't many answers to them. Like even your Blood Knight Nagashas that you played, like the Blood Knights are really worried about just being.
Oh, they're really elite. You just kill Nagash.
Yeah.
You know, easily. Like Nagash isn't that tough to kill. He's got 16 wounds. Yeah, you can get a 2-up reroll.
He's got his mortal save though, hasn't he?
Yeah, but you just kill him with normal attacks. Like you've got enough Ren 2, Ren 3. You just don't care. Like
the amount of Reach 3 in the army is, I think, very underestimatable as well. Like you're very aggressive, you're hypermobile, you can get where you want. Being able to get where you want and then charge and then shoot and then have Reach 3 and be a monster is just quite the toolbox, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's some talk about the Seraphon -1 damage, but because the mortals don't get really affected by that, I actually think they don't really like stuff that does mortals, so
they hate mortals.
And you know the swords are 6 attacks at damage 1, so they're not really reduced, and you mount attacks are reduced, but who cares? You don't need that many to go through. Because they don't. The thing about Seraphon as well, they've got like some key things that do all the stuff, and if you got ways to kill them without, like I found that if I play against Seraphon, if I can get rid of their buff pieces or kill their things like Bastillodons and Salamanders, they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, without the buff to do mortals on skinks, the skinks aren't very scary. Without the run and shoot buff, they're not easy to outrange, and it's like we just kill the Salamanders. Like they're the thing that do the damage, right? It's
exactly.
They do mortals.
And you have to wipe them, but it's pretty reliable that you can wipe them. There's no rallying on a dead unit, so.
But I just think like they are, because the thing is about like with the Blood Knights, you can just dictate the charge. So you could literally go in and wipe the Blood Knights out. They only got the gash left, and like, what's he gonna do? Kill one unit? It's like, okay,
yeah,
like
he's got an autosave, but he doesn't want to be standing shot at, and then ganked by 3 other things.
He just doesn't
face the big.
He doesn't do that
dragon.
much.
You really wouldn't like him.
He just really doesn't do that much. He doesn't hit that hard. He's very swingy in his combat. He's all right, but he's slow as well. He's very slow.
I think it can come down to grind, wouldn't it? Basically.
Yeah, but
quite reliably, I think.
if he's got his Nagash, you're like, okay, cool. I don't know. It'd be an interesting matchup, but I don't think it'd be that hard. I think you just need to play it a few times to know what the right choices are, and then you'd be fine.
Yeah, your target priority.
Yeah, I think swords are better than lances because, like you say, lances are affected by the Thunder Lizards. You lose half your attack. So effectively, net result, you do exactly the same amount of damage. You roll less dice. The only difference is you get +1 pip of rend and 1 extra reach. You don't really care about the reach.
Unless you're, I think you always want to roll more dice. And they're better in the grind. You're going to get screwed by odds less. The only reason that I'd consider the Lancers is the champion. You kind of get a bit more out of his extra attack with the champion, but
yeah. And the good thing about like Warhammer is that odds, you can say on average you do X, but like there's always a chance to spike because or roll underneath, and it's just Warhammer. Like sometimes you could do that breath weapon and you just do like 18 mortals with like 4 dragons. And you go, okay, just an 18 mortals to you. So like it's possible. Could do 24 mortal wounds, like just with the breath weapons, and go, okay, well that's dead then. It's not very likely, but it can happen. That's why I always like things that have the potential to spike big, because like if you roll something it's only can do, it's a bit like the long strikes, can only do 6 damage, right, max. But if you take hurricanes, you could do 27 damage. It's not very likely, but like you could. You've hit your ceiling if you've done, so. But yeah, reach is good, but I don't think it's as big a deal when you're basically on ovals, right? I guess they're on ovals, and you've got the 3-inch coherency, and you haven't got that many models, so yeah, exactly. You could do 0 wounds. I'm
interested to see how they land. Yeah,
that's Warhammer. So it makes it exciting.
I'm also very interested to see if they're actually, once the dust settles, a balance list with them being buffed more. For example, Castellan +1 save without it being dispellable, something like that. In the past, the Stormcast book has really benefited from that. So it could be that we're looking at this and everyone's talking about 1 hero, 10 dragons, and actually you need to be talking about 1 hero, 6 dragons, and then 3 more foot heroes and something else, or maybe the big dragon, is better. I do think he's better than everyone thinks, or a lot of people think.
I think what you've got is that, like, unlike Gargants, where you've got like 4 megas, you've got access to a book that's got 80 war scrolls to reduce your dragons and increase your whatever you need in the meta. So if you're like, I need consistently to kill a hero at the back, and that I can't quite do it, taking a prime and taking a Knight-Judicator probably gives you the mortal wound poke to do it.
So it's a really good point.
Like you're just, so suddenly you're like, the book's flexible enough to say, whatever I need right now in the meta, I can adjust it to fill that hole. And end of the day, a Knight-Draconis and 4 dragons is still really good, regardless of what else you got in your army. So
dropping 2 with their points increase, like you touched on earlier, that opens up a hell of a lot of choice.
Yeah,
like a disgusting amount of choice.
I mean, like even just taking Bastion. Like if you're suddenly finding, when there's lots of people that I'm struggling with because there's Gargants, and Bastion's just like, I'll just roll this many dice a turn and do mortals to you, and it's like, it's really good. So I think it's time will tell. So it'll be interesting to see how they feel.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change armies if these guys are around a lot. I know that.
Yeah, Slaanesh aren't gonna like these, are they?
No, there is nothing Slaanesh as a book can do against these. I don't think, unless I lean so heavily into Slaves to Darkness that I could be taking Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah, which is that point you might as well, because you get all the mortal wound saves on the shields and stuff, but you might as well just take Slaves, right?
Knights.
So
yeah, Knights would be pretty good against them, I reckon, actually.
Yeah, but I think you don't have to go spam dragon to have an effective army.
No, not one bit.
And like,
I'm tempted by doing a mix on myself. I think it looks like an awesome army to play. Probably only still have 6 war scrolls because they're so expensive and elite, which is a temptation in of itself. bit of a magic phase, very good shooting phase, solid combat phase, bit of hero phase.
And because they've got shooting as well as combat, you could fill your other points out with just lots of infantry and then go Stormkeep and be like, I want Redeemers, and I can use my bring unit a Redeemer back and all that. And you can lean into the more varied balanced list with infantry. And then if you go Knight-Draconis Guard, and then you've got the Unholy Assault, the Holy Assault, Unholy Assault, that's not a different army. Holy Assault and stuff like that. So, yeah, I definitely think it's cool. I did see someone photoshopped Blood Knights on the dragons, and I was thinking of Blood Dragon Vampires from old edition. I was thinking that'd be a really cool converted army.
That's an excuse
to do like
black battered army, or the armor could be chipped, and that'd be cool.
Basically, do like proper blood red dragons with like black armored vampire riders or something, and it'd look really cool.
Good. Matte black lava basing or something.
Yeah, something like, or just getting like those trees, like I did on my old undead, like those railway ones you twist the armatures, and then putting those on the bases and putting like gravestones and stuff and having them flying over like a graveyard or like a sort of classic scene. And you could even use the old Garden of Moor kits and stuff and cut the bases out of that.
That'd be amazing.
It'd look really cool. You'd be like, I've got my like blood dragon vampire keep army that is just is a Stormcast army, but it's a death army. So
completely. Also, if you want to go full on basing an entire army of flyers that are on beefy flying stands, you could have an entire city on your base and it wouldn't get in the way of your models.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it.
I'm tempted. The only problem is that as soon as you start to want to branch out and take like other stuff, you'll suddenly have to find a way to convert like, which isn't a proxy, stuff like foot vampires and things like that, so
head swap.
Yeah, but it would look like those people who like just stick a random head on a Stormcast and go, oh, look, it's a Stormcast.
I'm sure you could find some 3D printed shields and a head swap and get quite a lot of the way, I think. And if you pick the right units, they're covered in skulls, aren't they?
You could 100% find 3D printed stuff, but then like you've got a bit of an issue if you go to like official GW events because it's frowned upon in their packs.
Not if it's yours. So their ruling is that if it's yours for your army, you can. So I'd find someone who makes it and then say, can you put me, like some bat wings on a shoulder pad? And then you get all your shoulder pad done for the army and maybe like an insignia that you put on shields or something like that. They're fine with people having their own thing. And actually, in my experience, if you're willing to pay a setup cost, the price for that isn't anything more than it would be to buy loads of other stuff.
I love the fact that like Shouty Big Death Man is going, I could take hammers for the 6+ for the authentic death feel. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. And you could have objective markers of grave sites, right? And it's just like playing death. It's just Soulblight by a different flavour.
Any excuse to do Stormcast with their beautiful armour in a battered campaign, like matte black feel or something, is people should do that. That is a damn good looking scheme.
And if you did like blood effects as well, you could do some really, I mean, even stuff like the blood dragon, the zombie dragon, you could use that rider and put that on the new Drake and then have that as a storm.
He's Drake. Actually beefy enough as well.
Yeah, he's big enough.
Like he's of the right size. He's about twice as big as the Blood Knights.
Yeah, and you could use stuff like you could even make like a Yndrasta with bat wings, like proper like vampire Stormcast. It'd be amazing. Tempted.
Yeah. I put Archeon's wings on one of the big dragons. That looks so cool.
Archeon, wow. I was thinking more like Marathi, but yeah, it's Marathi things. But
yeah, do it. Everyone should do it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about dragons in general? Then are you worried about what they're gonna? I was.
I'm not worried now. Less. I think some armies will worry because they are going to be that polar.
Rock paper scissors. Like, just no
there's no answer. But they're the same armies that worry about megas and other things. So, like, if you're already persevering with something in this meta, then dragons are just going to make it worse. Like,
they're just going to take the heal in, aren't they?
Yeah, I think
B tier and below is just
the state of the game at the moment. It feels like there are some lists you need to be playing if you want to be competitive. And if you're not playing them, then you just accept that it's a free to fun.
It's like there's B plus and up, or like A and up, and then there's just like this huge gap, and then there's all the other stuff.
Yeah,
and
I don't think we've seen it as much as obvious as it is, because I think because events are 5 rounds, and if they're sort of 60 to 80 players plus, you could get 4-0s or 5-0s with a list that isn't quite what I'd call like really, really good.
Yeah.
Purely because you just get a favourable run. But if you played 6 rounds, I think the top 10s would look very different.
I agree. I think the good stuff is so prevalent as well that they're bashing each other out of the top spots. So there are, I mean, we've seen it recently. Finally, lizards. You know, the world has woken up to how bent that book is, and they're just, you know, they are nut strong. They can deal with pretty much anything.
They've been on
they
like
laugh at Marathi.
top 10s, top 5s all the time. They're just that good. They are that good. They've always been good.
They were the most popular army that were at the event of Alex's we went to, and there were like 12 there out of 80 or something.
Yeah, and
which
they're
is a lot these days.
I mean,
and they ended up fighting each other and kicking each other down.
Well, that's the other
coming
thing.
up against Iron Jaws and getting kicked down. There's so many rock paper scissors that something can be incredible, and then face one of the 4 armies he doesn't want to face.
That's the issue with Lumineth. If they miss the megas, they're fine. Do you know what I mean? Like if they play megas, it's like, oh, okay, that's bad. But then if they dodge the megas, it's like great. And I don't know. I think
Iron Jaws didn't face megas.
Yeah.
And
the Orc War Clans added a list in, and it's likewise. There are armies that, like, you know, like can be a problem for megas, but it's still a bit of a crapshoot, purely because of the current General's Handbook Battle Pack, where you get so many bonuses for existing and just walking on things and standing on it. You don't need to do anything. There's no probability there.
Yeah.
You're not gonna not stand next to the thing and capture it because there's no dice to roll. It's like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, megas encourage you to win the game. The best way to win the game, which is to win the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about killing your opponent. It's just about winning. And they basically say on their scroll, "Go and stand on objectives," because their entire book is about that. Whereas these guys, I think there's more opportunity for people to misplay this army than megas by a huge degree. Like,
you've got more decisions to make. So
completely more swingy because, you know, dice are involved. But other than like, I make my run a 6 and I'm on the objective.
But I think they'll play very similar to megas, where basically like you're saying all I need to do is score my battle tactic with my bonus point, and I've got my whole army's monsters whilst I'm killing you, and
which they will do.
I'll win. Which is, and then even if you lose all your men, if you've scored enough scenario points that you're up ahead so much, they can't come back. Let's not forget that all your models count as 5 because they're monsters. So it's pretty good, you know.
Okay, coherency thing. I don't even know how that's going to look or feel to play against yet, but it's very different. You know, to have people handbrake turns with 3 inches between them or whatever. Like, that's quite a bit board covered up. It's going to be interesting to see. Squirrel, I agree. That's why we did our Meta Breaker Award, which Nighthorn actually won. At FaceHAMMER GT, which we were super pleased to see because they need some love, don't they?
Yeah, so we picked some armies we gave extra points to, and the best performing army in that bracket got the Meta Breaker, which was Nighthorn army.
Didn't have an easy run either. They built some hard armies. Maxence, could we do a list with fulminators? It's very similar to the dragon list. Do you mean like using some fulminators or like the fulminator list? Because basically, in exactly the same way as the dragon list, it's take the mounted fulminator character and then fill the rest of your army with fulminators. And
That's what I'm doing.
Is
it basically that, right? Is it? Do you have more than that?
Well, you go 4. I can't see what you're doing, but you go like 4-2-2 character, and then you have like 400 points to play with at that point, maybe.
Yeah, put a prime in, right? Is that basically it? Because a prime, the thing is about the prime is he's not even like, he's a sub commander, which just blows my mind.
Oh, he is the sexiest of sub commanders available. Yeah, that's the list, Russ. I mean, that looks solid. Or you could have less drops and one of those. You could have 2 4s in there. They are damn good. They are incredibly good. Like really, really, really good. For their points.
There you go. Lord Celestant on Dracoth, a Celestant Prime, a 4, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, and it's 1 drop. Battle Regiment. 5 units, 1 big commander, 1 little. Oh, both sub commanders, aren't they? But it's fine.
Yeah, that is. Formulators are incredibly good. They are. I think point for point, they might be there with a prime in my eyes as one of the best things in the book.
They're probably point for point better than the dragons.
Agreed. They just don't move
because
as fast
they're
and
like
stuff like
110 points cheaper.
So, yeah, they're nuts.
Now,
if you go the 2 route as well, you cover a very, very large amount of board space.
Yeah, and actually, what you could do if you really wanted to, is you could actually go. Let's not have this. Let's have the knight. What's his name? Knight dude. Knight-Draconis.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then let's drop some Fulminators, and let's put in 4 dragons.
Oh, that's a... Yeah, these are my flappy ones. These are my walkie ones.
I mean, it's not difficult. You just basically spam them because you're like, these are so good, so I just have as many as I can fit. I don't know what that'll be in points. That's going to be... I need to add on a load extra because they cost...
It's 900 for your... 900 for the 4 and the guy, you said, I think.
980, but yeah. So so it would be 300 for him, and then 340 plus 340 plus 325 for the prime. And if I add 230, 230, 230, yeah, so like 3 units of Fulminators, 2 units of 2 Stormdrake Guard, a Celestant Prime, and a Knight-Draconis is 1995.
What do you mean Modern need way more support? I think that army supports itself, but I might not be understanding your question.
I think the problem is as soon as you start going, I'll pay like 140 points to give my guys a +1 save, then I'll pay another 160 points to get a wizard, then I'll pay... You could have just had another 4 Fulminators, and you're like, am I better off having 4 more or having 1 unit with +1 save if that guy's alive? And it's like, you're better just having 4 more, so you just spam them.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
It's like
it's an MMU approach, isn't it? I mean, I know the points values are quite high at 285, but you treat them like multiple medium-sized units, and they just cover the board, and then the 230 for the Fulminators is such a steal.
But that
Squirrel
that list actually, I think, is that list is legit, because you could even put the Stormdrake into 1/4 if you really wanted to. But I think like the Fulminators themselves, you're just like, well, Fulminators, isn't it? So effectively, you've got your 5 units of fittings, but you've just downgraded your dragons to Fulminators, and you just put a prime in.
Yeah. We've still got quite a lot of stuff there that counts as a fair amount of wounds. Mm-hmm. The Fulminators only count as 2, don't they?
Yeah.
But the rest of your army is pretty...
Yeah.
God. That is
still 1
drop. 12 models. What a joyful army to paint and play with. Look at that.
I don't know, have you ever painted a Fulminator? I'd rather put my eyes out.
I started building
2
4 years ago, and I stopped.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Scroll. I'd support it. Love it. Yeah, but that, I think the TLDR dragons are a lot of fun. They're competitively viable. You can spam them. I think you're probably better off having some of them and other stuff. The good thing about the Stormcast book, it's got so much in it. You can add a couple models and change the list, and you can pretty much adapt to anything.
Yeah. Do not write the big dragon off either. I think
No.
people are sleeping
No,
on
no.
that
No, I
completely.
think
He's a bloody wizard that is worth having in your army and has access to one of the best sets of spells available in the game, including the flexibility of his warscroll spell, which is probably is that the best spell in the game? Range 24, 4 or 3 viable options, can't remember which. And he's at bonuses to cast.
yeah.
See reply Modnar. I think tournament results would say otherwise. Like a list that was just fulminators, and a lot of them, because you get like
It won, yeah. Won at Warhammer World.
you get 14 in a guy. Cheers for tuning in, Scroll, much appreciated. But yeah, I think you get like 14 and the foot dude or something like that. It's pretty
yeah, you
good.
probably take a caster just to give him +1 save or something, don't you? Or something like that.
On the 4 block, yeah.
Or,
yeah, and it
or
gives
a
you another
reroll
hero.
charge banner or something. I mean, you played
The
against
Stormcast
it.
spells are... Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good. I had options with it with my list, which I didn't make the most of. But yeah, it's extremely solid. They are not to be underestimated. I've also charged 2 Fulminators with 3 buffed Vanguard, lost 2 Vanguard, and he didn't lose any Fulminators. And I've done that in multiple games. They're really very, very, very reliable.
Les also charged 2 Fulminators into 15 Hard Boys, and I killed both Fulminators and didn't lose my unit, so that was good. Warhammer dice.
Oh dear. The Stormcast spells are incredible.
Yeah, they are really good.
Like the is it what's the Pikachu one called?
I don't know what
Thunder
you mean.
Shock, Thunder Strike,
-1 to wound bubble.
Charging.
Or the one where you can't pile in. I don't know.
Oh god, yeah. The deck is nuts. The one with the one that does a zap burst. And then
yeah, it's basically the same as Manfred's. It's D3 and then a free up. It does 1 more wound to everything within 6. So,
and then what's the one that on a 3+ everything within 18 can't do something or is -1 hit or something like that?
No, Ben Johnson, who won the Warhammer World event, he had lots of different. It wasn't just Fulminators, but he was all Dracoths. So he had different types. But yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They're basically the same, you know.
I think his reasoning for that is probably I didn't want 14 of the same model when I could have had 6 of one, 4 of one, and 4 of another.
I think point for point, if you look at out of the different Dracoths, the Fulminators are the best ones.
Yeah,
you could take Tempesters, you could take Concussors, you could take but Fulminators are the best ones. So
yeah, if you're going to min-max it, Stark Thundershock is the AOE -1 to wound. Yeah, yes. The casting is underwhelming. I can see that, but if you're at +3 to cast, I would disagree. So the spell deck and options are phenomenal. That doesn't mean they're easy to get off.
And Krondys is like a beast in combat.
Oh yeah. No, I would seriously consider him, especially in an environment where there's gargants everywhere, because they might have, they might have 2 wizards per army now, but they're not at + to cast or dispel. So having some dragons in there for dispelling and some casting at +3 is
you don't get to unbind at +3, but the cast is good. So
yes, yeah, exactly.
So, not quite.
Yeah, they're just on. Yeah, they're just on dice against your. You're just on dice, but it's a chance to dispel against them that you wouldn't have otherwise, and then they're very unlikely to be stopping your spells. Really unlikely. So yeah, the deck is incredible. The spell deck. But
yeah.
It's very.
Their prayers are really good as well.
Yeah, they are. It's easy to justify getting prayers in than it is to get wizards in, which I think is why the dragon is so tempting.
Yeah, I think whatever you do, you just basically spam units, don't you? If you're like, I want to play Dracoths, you just spam them, and you can change the different types to flavor. So if you think, I need a bit more shooting, or I need a bit more control, or I need to do, I'll drop a couple of them out and put them in, or so that's what I'm sort of saying about the Stormcast flexibility. You go, well, actually, I need this certain tool because I can see these things appearing at events that I can't deal with. I can manipulate a unit or 2 to then put those things in to then skew my list slightly more in a different direction, and then that covers the gap that I had, and then that's what I mean about the flexibility of them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Stark, I can see that. I think maybe there's a kind of a temptation to take him and then like a Castellan to be able to maybe get +2 to his save on or something. But I think for 600 points, if you look at his move, his damage output, his spell selection, the fact that it gives you another character in the list and stuff like that. Hello, Coach. How are you? I think he's definitely justifiable for 600 points, especially given that the other dragons have gone up in price now. I think it's more justifiable having the caster one in. Only the caster. The other one is worth it if you're running the double dragon list only, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think in cities there's a different argument because I think he's better in cities, but other than that, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. But I think I don't ask me what it is, but apparently there's some combo in cities with the combat one. But I think I think Krondys is the most competitive thing to have in the most competitive Stormcast build? Probably not. But could you be competitive with Krondys? Yes. So
absolutely, yeah.
It's like,
and he might be a good choice in the current meta as well, I feel.
Because it's like people who say like it's very easy to theorize and say, oh, I don't think it's that good. But then, like, if you practice something enough and you play enough of it, having the tools in your toolbox that you don't necessarily have could be the difference in the bad matchups that you need. And so it's worth playing. And I think that it's a bit like you can see people doing well, like Owen Jackson doing well with, like, Arcan and Nagash and OBR.
Yeah.
Like,
he's lived that list for like 2 years.
And like I played it at the Warhammer World event, and honestly, I could have won all my games and gone 5-0 easily. I had never played any practice with it, and I played against a Legion army and I had horrific bad luck, and I misplayed against a Khorne army. But the next time, if I had that matchup, I could have gone 5-0 with that list. It's just one of those things that it's not obvious that it's the best thing, but it doesn't mean it's not good. You just have to play with it and then go, actually, this is fine. And also don't worry.
You
don't have to take what the internet says is the best list, because it's not the best list until someone does well with it. Then you go, oh, that's a competitive list because someone did well with it. But you could be the first person to do well with it. And part of the joy of Warhammer is finding the thing that you want to champion and do well with, and then you just persevere with it, and then you go, well, actually, I'm known for that because I've done something different and I've done well with it. And you might not do well with it, but you have fun in the process, so it doesn't matter. So
yes, if something's your bro and you enjoy playing with it, then it's great. But the other thing I'd say, and this goes pretty much for all of the Stormcast book and all resilient armies in general, you can take non-optimal choices in resilient armies, or that are resilient choices, without it being nearly so much of an issue as if they were glass cannons or they weren't resilient pieces, because you are not punished nearly so much. You don't have nearly so many situations where you have to be ultra careful with it. And a 3-up save, move 14, which is just kind of hilarious. And the set of abilities that it has is, it's not squishy. He's basically going to be on a 2-up save when it matters, because you would do everything you could to keep 600 points alive if they were important in your army. He's not easy to go through. He costs a lot less than Kragnos or something like that. I think he's really good. And when you get into a matchup against Gargants and you debuff the living shit out of the one of them that you're going to go and plow into, or you debuff one and that allows you to put all of your attacks on another, I think it's going to feel pretty useful, actually.
I just like how defensible he is. Like, if you cast the spell, he's going to be -1 to hit, -1 to wound, -1 attack. He's going to go into something and pin it, and that stops people then countercharging your damage unit. And you don't. And you've got Mystic Shield. You've got Best Day Ever. He's a hero. Yeah. Titanic Jaw. Whatever. And I think if anyone tries to mob him with infantry, you're just going to be so much damage with his tail attack.
Yeah. Well, the moment someone picks take down your dude, you Best Day Ever him, and right, like, and then at the point at which you get into combat, you didn't need to cast a spell to be +2 to save. Right, it's just like the Mega Gargant thing. Which one are your opponents close to, or which one are you going to be aggro with? All right, it's his best day. Let's go.
And how big a swing is -1 to their save, and then you've charged in your Knight-Draconis with the I can do the monstrous rampage. It isn't a rampage, so you can't use all that defense, and a unit of dragons, and you're like, well, suddenly that's a net 2 save you're not getting.
Yeah,
and he's Ren free, so
minus,
like,
yeah,
and he's got
-1 to their save makes you Ren free on your Ren 2s as well.
And he could have the fight first, so you could fight with him and the dragons before they even get to swing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's that combination. If you're like, well, actually that combo, and then Krondys could pin another thing, because he could basically go and tank a Gargant and go, well, you're not going to kill me, because you're not going to kill him in a round, and you're going to go, well, you're not going to kill me, so I'm going to pin you, and I'll just sit there. You'd be very unlucky if Krondys died to a Gargant attack.
On a 1+ save, with the amount of, they're not mega fast. With the amount of debuffing ability you got, you would have to go really, really badly to lose him. And there's a really good chance that if they don't get above average and you've debuffed it twice, which is very realistic, never mind your natural debuff you get for existing, with the subtracting 1 from attacks, there's a really good chance that they completely whiff on you. -1 to hit and -1 to wound, or some equivalent of that. -1 to their rend, anything.
And let's not forget, like, that -1 is a bubble of 18 inches from him. That'll be everything. Like, that's huge. So
okay. Also, if you run this guy in an Anvil Guard list, you can make it so whenever he takes a wound, you roll a dice, and on a 4+, the attacker takes a mortal. Tasty.
Yeah.
I think you can get these attacking twice. At City, they are very good in cities. Like, cities has got some real scope for Stormcast stuff. Sorry, whoever made that comment, Sleepy. You're completely right.
I'm sure Coach will do, because he's a cities man, he'll do a thing on that where he can talk about how good that they are in cities. I would feel pretty out of my depth trying to cover cities with with Stormcast.
Tempest Eye has got some real scope. It's +1 save and +3 inches move in the first turn.
Right. Okay.
And it's got a spell which is +1 attack to melee profiles within 12 of the caster. Yes, please. Like, really good. Cool. +1 attack to everything within 12, and 17-inch move if you're.
Yeah, so I think we've probably covered everything dragon.
I think so.
Some questions. So thanks everyone who's tuned in. And it's been a while since we've done shows, but it should start to pick up around December, New Year. It should be January for sure, because I'll have the house renovations done and probably be in a better place to actually do more content. So the Maggotkin book obviously has been previewed, so when that is coming, we'll do a full show on that. And
whenever we can.
I've got a Warhammer World event show that we went to that's editing and will be out in the next week. So just keep an eye on the channel and the Discord. I know it's been a bit quiet, but we will be getting to it. I've also got the Patreon gifts being made at the moment. I'll share some of that once I've got some photos of progress. So I'm hoping to get them out for Christmas, but we'll see how it goes. So I've asked to try and get by the end of the month, but it might be the first week in December. So if I get my hands on them, I'll try and get those dispatched out. And we've got the objective markers back in stock, so you can see the link in the chat and in the description below. Obviously, any support is greatly appreciated. We've reduced the cost and given you what you need. So we've taken out the smaller ones because it's not really needed in the new handbook. And we've done some improvements to the actual vinyl CD case packaging. Yeah, but we've dropped it down to $19.95 now. So it does ship worldwide. So if you want to get those, they're super useful. If I don't say so myself, but yeah, I find them
to your Krondys.
Yeah, exactly. Watch this space. I will be doing a bit more dragon content because we will be doing some. I'm tempted to pick some of these up myself to add to my Hallowed Knights. So there you go. But Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Let us know, leave a like if
guys.
you liked it, and do the algorithm stuff. And we'll catch you all again soon. Thanks very much for tuning in.
Yeah, cheers, guys. If the city stuff is a thing, we'll see if we can get someone on to help us out who's a bit more knowledgeable. I've played them a bit, but there's plenty of people we know who've played them a lot.
Yeah, it might be a Maudsley guest show in that.
Absolutely.
So Arnold, we did talk about that, but you can't because they've got more than 3 wounds. So there you go. Anyway, catch you all again soon.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. Take it easy.
Thanks, Schmidt.
Bye.
Bye.